Hello and welcome to Vtuber Talk. I'm your host Jay and thank you so much for joining us this evening. For any of you who haven't been here before, Vtuber Talk is designed after classic late night talk shows. Everything here is live, casual, and the goal is to simply have fun conversations that will entertain people who are already familiar with the guest while still being accessible for new fans. I am so excited for tonight's show for so many reasons. You all have no idea that this is a very special show in so many ways. So please welcome my guest for this evening, Miss Lala.
Hi! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I know it's so crazy that I'm just amazed how small the world is. And I don't know. I'm very excited to hang out for a few hours and to get to gabbing and all that good stuff. And it is just kind of crazy and serendipitous how we're finally hanging out. You've been communicating that you've wanted me on this show for a minute, and I've been
busy. People
so
have real
in another
lives.
planet. I've been on another planet, and I'm so happy we finally made this work. And I'm thank you for having me. Thank you.
Trust me, the pleasure is all mine. And it seems very apparent that there are plenty of greaser gremlins in the chat. But for anyone who might not be familiar with you, if you could introduce yourself.
Oh, of course. I was like, I am the lady who's speaking to you through a digital avatar. Welcome. My name is Miss Lala. I'm a 1950s diner waitress VTuber serving up fun in the 21st century. And I stream here on Twitch. I run a diner here on Twitch. And I do the streams. I do the chatting. I do the gabbing. And mainly raising a lot of chaos. That just seems to be part of a regular offerings on the menu, so to say. So
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
A lot of chatting, a lot of gabbing. Actually, this is sort of the second talk show, more or less, that you've been on today. And this means that you have now sort of been on both sides of the desk, because earlier today, you were talking with Obi Katie Cat, and that you were, for lack of a better term, you were running a talk show earlier today. So welcome to your second talk show of the day.
My second talk show. I didn't even think about that. I really have. I started to think about the way where I interact with people for the first time, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, do you want to play a game?" I was like, "We're gonna be talking to each other, meeting each other verbally for the first time. I feel like I just want to gab with you, get to know you. You get to know me. Let's talk about a million things under the sun. Let's get into all the weird shit and bond over that weird shit." And that's kind of I really have kind of subscribed to that school of thought now in terms of when I'm hanging out with people for the first time. And I love that it feels like a talk show, because I'm totally doing 20 questions. I'm I was like, "What's your favorite ice cream flavor? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite animal? What kind of trauma that you go to that that left an indelible mark in your life?" So, but yeah, that's, today earlier we were doing Katie Cat, and the rest of the day I've been busy making sure getting last things together for tomorrow. And
Yes,
then now I'm
indeed.
here wrapping up the evening with you. So, yeah.
Like you mentioned, you do a lot of chatting, a lot of gabbing, a lot of raising havoc, and tomorrow you're going to be raising some money for charity.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It was it's been a month in the making in terms of just coordinating schedules and coordinating with the Foundation of America. So it's I realize, for people who don't know, so tomorrow I'm doing a 12-hour charity stream raising money for the Endometriosis Foundation of America, and it's a cause that is near and dear to my heart as someone who has endometriosis. And so it's a 12-hour stream tomorrow. So it's been coordinating between Advanced CG, who's offering some lovely gifts, some giveaways tomorrow. We have the Endo Foundation that gave some assets and things like that. We got some balloons that we made. Just some cute things to get tomorrow, get people excited. But it's gonna be a day of lots of talking, lots of good times with other VTubers, and yeah, it's nice. So that's been a big focus of this month for me, and so it's nice to also just have an evening where I get to just kind of relax and chit chat and unwind a little bit.
Yes,
Oh
indeed.
yeah, look at that!
Ta-da!
Oh yeah, ta-da! Look at it. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and that you have some wonderful guests lined up. One of which who has actually been on this show. I did have Gabi Lynn on the show. It was, it's probably been about a year now, come to think of it. And that you have Akive and Iron Mouse as well. Just a fantastic lineup of folks, and I know you're going to have a lot of fun. And funny enough, you wound up, obviously accidentally, having a similar format to what I do for my own charity marathon, and that is the 12-hour show. Because the first time that I started organizing what has now become my annual charity marathon, which benefits Child's Play, I had the idea of, okay, well, it's for the anniversary, so I'll do a 24-hour stream on the day of the anniversary. And I sort of boxed myself into that mindset, frankly. And it wasn't until another guest was talking with me after one of the shows, and I was explaining to him, all right, this is what I'm planning on doing. It's going to be in a couple months. And he said, I would recommend against 24. Never seen somebody have a good time in 24, that you always are able to be good up through 14, 16 hours, but then that last 4 hours is just a slog, and that nobody ever ends at high energy. And that I've also seen plenty of people over the years plan a 24 and call it quits after 16, 18, 20, what have you, because they realize that if they kept going, it would just be painful. And so I sort of had a light bulb moment. There's no rule saying it has to be on my anniversary. I'm just going to do 12 hours each day, because that way I can still say I got to 24, and that way it'll make a full weekend for me. But that as soon as I shifted my thing to 12 hours, that's been how I've done it. And after the very first day of that first charity marathon of 12 hours, I said, this was the right call. Because at the end of 12 hours, I still felt like I could have gone 2-3 more. But I knew if I had to do another 12 hours from that moment, it would have been bad. But then I was able to, rest for 12 hours, be back the next day. I think 12 hours is pretty much the ideal time for an event stream. That if it's going to be big, 12 hours is a long time.
It is a long time.
But at the same time, it's not, most people are up for 12 hours in a day, at least. And that, yes, being mentally active, essentially nonstop for 12 hours does take energy, but it's not a insurmountable task, and that you're able to put forth good energy that whole time. And I think that while it's going to be definitely, it's not easy, that you couldn't do that every day, but to do it once when you're prepared for it, I think you're going to have a great time tomorrow. And I think you're going to be high energy the whole way. And then about 2 hours or so afterwards, once the adrenaline drops off, you're going to sleep for basically a day or so. Well-deserved sleep, certainly. But that I think you'll have a lot of fun, and I think you're going to be able to raise a lot of money. And you have also set up some milestones. I haven't actually bothered looking at them myself, because you only posted them a couple hours ago. I'm actually going to zoom or increase the size a bit. That way it's a bit more readable. But let's see what we've got here. Got diner mug giveaway. I love your diner mugs, Lala. They're so cute. Oh my goodness. I should have gotten a picture of one of those mugs. If you have not seen Lala's diner mugs, do yourself a favor. That they are that perfect level of just classic greasy spoon kitschy that you could put in a kitchen that, your mom serve drink coffee out of. It's so nice. They're very clean, so that's a fun one. You mentioned
you're
advanced
hired.
GG.
You hired for my PR. Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you like shill my shit anytime, everywhere. You're so good at it. Look at you. This does it perfectly.
Oh, thank you. See, Lester's Soda Flight. Oh, I've seen some of those. There are some crazy ones. What's in that flight?
Oh, in the flight, it has I think it has bacon, it has ranch, it has, there was one that I was like, I'm so not excited. It's because I'm not going to be redeeming them tomorrow, just because tomorrow is such a packed day, but I'll dedicate,
you'll do a tasting stream later.
I'll be doing a tasting stream. Everything will be redeemed within the next kind of week and a half. But when you look at some of the flavors, I was like, what was it? It was, what is it? There is bacon was the one, ranch. What was another one that was
I've seen some of these. I've heard bacon is odd. I've heard that ranch is the bad one.
Yeah, ranch is just so odd. Oh, here we go. Okay, hold on. Sweet corn.
I feel like that'll be weird, but not terrible.
Yeah, buffalo wing. is another one.
I feel like
I
that'll
think
be really good or really bad.
yeah,
It
like
really depends on how
yeah,
that one goes.
for me, I dislike ranch like pretty badly. The only time I have ranch is like if I'm having buffalo wings,
Hmm.
because I'll use it as a dipping sauce. And even
Oh,
then, I
you could
prefer
do
like blue
a
cheese.
small bit of both the buffalo
Oh
and the
God!
ranch sodas. What would
Oh
that
no!
do?
Oh
Oh,
my God!
oh,
Swish that in
oh,
my
oh
mouth!
God, that kind of sounds terrifying. What have I done?
I hate it. I hate it. No, no, no. I hate it. Oh
PT
God.
Brown,
No, no, no.
probably not lethal.
Yeah, that totally. Oh my God.
Oh, okay, that's the 15K stretch goal. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah, do a little swish like a fine wine in my mouth, just like
Ugh.
yum, yum, yum,
Yes,
yum,
the
yum.
the
Yeah.
lesser soda sommelier.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, exactly. It's familiar. I'd be like, what did you hmm, 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 hmm.
I'm detecting notes
Mm,
of
mm,
of
uh,
Tyson's
mhm,
with a slight
mhm,
aftertaste
yeah.
of
Mm,
Buffalo
mm.
Wild Wings. Hmm.
Yum, yum. Oh, it's so interesting. The palate really screams, I want to rip my tongue out and
Yes.
never taste anything ever again.
Hmm.
Yes, that has hints of that. Yes, has hints of like, I don't know if I'll survive the rest of these bottles. Taste. Yes, yes. What else we
But
got?
it's
Yeah.
for charity, and so you put
For
up with it. That
charity.
because my rancid tasting thing, which I could never, in good conscience, suggest to anybody except for charity or like if you are doing a thing with friends and know that you're in for a bad time.
Mhm.
Have you ever had Bean Boozled, Lala?
Oh, here's the thing. I've done like a couple of what do you call it? The you laugh, you lose things, and
Mm.
I've always had Bean Boozled on it, and yet it never landed on Bean Boozled.
Oh,
So I
you're
actually
so
have not.
lucky.
I've had this like case of Bean Boozled that at this point I don't even know it's good anymore.
Probably
It's just like
well, it's like those things are so artificial and processed. They probably never go bad. They probably get like mildly stale, but
yeah, yeah.
it's not like
Oh
they
yeah,
go bad.
perfect. Yeah, stale vomit jelly bean is just like what gets me going. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, great, wonderful. Yeah, for charity.
For charity and only for charity. And
Only
then
for charity.
you then have the $75 Steam gift card. You then
Yeah.
have dramatic reading, which, funny enough, is something that I also have had on each of mine. For the first year, I did a dramatic reading of the B movie script. The second year, I did a dramatic reading of The Room. And just
Oh
last
my
month, for the
god.
third anniversary, I did a dramatic reading of the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I'm doing it with my husband, Don, and we decided we've been going back and forth. There was a moment where I almost did the scene from When Harry Met Sally, the diner scene when she's like, "Oh, I have what she's having."
Oh,
Almost
yeah.
almost did that one.
That's
But
very on brand. That's as on brand as it gets.
but then we decided to do a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean because he does a fabulous Jack Sparrow impersonation.
Ooh.
So we're doing a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean. So I'm gonna put my best Elizabeth Swan. But I don't know. Elizabeth Swan with a thick accent. We'll see how good that.
Yes,
I don't.
Elizabeth
Oh
Swan
my God!
from New
Look, I
York
threw the.
City.
It's like, yeah, I drink rum. Yeah, and I drink coffee on this cursed deserted island. Where's this ship? Where's this ship? Huh? I'm a governor's daughter. What's going on? There's gonna be anyway. It's gonna be very interesting.
Then have the Don't Scream Challenge Impossible. Now, is the Don't Scream Challenge a specific thing? Because I've heard of plenty of you laugh, you lose, don't scream, don't show emotion challenges, but the way this is phrased, it sounds like it's like a curated, predetermined one.
So Don't Scream is actually it's this video game, right? Where you can't make any noise in the game or else it'll like trigger jump scares. So the
Oh.
challenge specifically is that I tape a harmonica to my face while I play.
Oh yeah, so any exhale
And knowing, here's the thing about my lovely, beautiful, beloved, chaotic, greasy gremlins. They know how I am with horror games. It's just a bad time for me. It's just always a bad time, because I usually scream my head off, and it's very hard for me to like. I played like Five Nights at Freddy, and it was a mess and a half. So that's why it's like challenge impossible. There's like no way. I like, I should have also put the milestone, a Costco amount. It depends, because Lord knows I'm going to be needing it when I play the game. So it's fine. It's going to be great. It's for charity. For charity. It's my guiding. It's like my North Star through all the pain. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so that's that challenge. So once again, all the pain, all the pain. Quepena.com is all for charity. That's kind of how I'm framing it. So
yes. Then have play Elden Ring with a heart monitor. Funny enough, again, we are inadvertently having a lot of overlap here, because one of the other things that I do as part of my sort of standard milestones every year is that I will do a game stream, because obviously this is not a channel where you're going to get game streams under any normal circumstances. So that's my one game stream a year as a charity marathon reward. One year it was Elden Ring. This past year it was Getting Over It. But that last year it was Elden Ring, that I hadn't played a Souls-like since Dark Souls 1, which I only ever played once at a friend's house, so I was very bad.
I'd never played, and so I came up with this list. There's a couple of people who helped. One of them was this other VTuber named Geronimo Kiddo. She was so sweet. She's a gal pal, and she was like giving me some charity ideas. The other person is Samahath, and who's like my IRL best friend of like, I don't know, 15 fucking years. Basically, we started being friends when like dinosaurs were still roaming the earth, and then and we were coming up with ideas. And she was like, "Oh, you've never played Elden Ring." And my other mod, Chris, the random Chris, has been dying to get me to try a Souls-like game. I was like, I don't see the joy in playing a Souls-like game. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of coffee. Like, it's just not something that really like sings to my gamer heart in any way. And then she's like, "But it's for charity. This is where you sacrifice."
Yep, this is where all the norms go out the window. Anything that you would normally say, "Oh, okay, I don't want to do that," that you'll open your mind to it. But also, it also gives you a chance to do fun things that are just, frankly, off-brand. That it's also, in some ways, an excuse to just do something that maybe you actually do secretly want to do, but it's so offbeat that you couldn't justify it under normal circumstances. But here, you can say, oh no, I don't want to read this silly, hilarious, fun script. Oh, woe is me, and get people to donate to charity for it.
Yeah, I was debating exactly. Like, I was, trying to figure out what would be something that would incentivize people to want to donate. So definitely things that are certainly outside of my comfort zone, 1,000%. But also, again, like, you're doing it because you're willing to sacrifice that bit of comf for the idea of like, for a really great cause. I'm very passionate about this cause, as like I said, as someone who has endometriosis. I didn't even like consider doing anything for it, but just a lot of like circumstances of life kind of led me to being like, I should do it. And it is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and so what a better time to do it. And yeah, I'm just very grateful, so I'm very grateful to the people we have coming. I'm very grateful that people have been expressed their enthusiasm for tomorrow, and I'm totally willing to, like, I don't know, to shit myself while playing a horror game, while also having a heart rate monitor strapped to my chest while I'm double fisting bacon and like ranch soda.
And ranch soda, yep. Yes, indeed.
So it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it, obviously. So, but yeah, so it's going to be good. I even like, the other goals are also like, just like, oh my God, I would never in a million years.
Yeah. You got order pizza. I find it interesting that ordering pizza is so high up on the list. Usually you see these as lower tier rewards because it's okay, I need to order lunch anyways, and that's fine. But that you have order Miss Lala's pizza up at the $5,000 mark. Yeah. What has you so afraid?
Pineapples.
Why there? Why up? That's right.
Pineapples.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Because it's part of your intro package,
Yep.
the intro video that you have at the start of all your streams. That you have
Pineapple
a
is
thing that
banned in
says,
my chat. You cannot in every language. It is banned. It
That's-
is not allowed.
Did you
'cause
actually
it is,
do it in multiple languages?
oh yes.
I
And
respect the
and
commitment to the bit. That's so good.
and the separation people do pine and apple. Listen, there has been great lengths done to preserve
I'm
the
seeing
truth
the emotes
about
here
yeah,
in
yeah,
chat.
yep. Yeah.
All right,
It
chat,
is.
whatever you do,
Yes,
chat,
that is
chat,
specific.
whatever you do, don't tell her that I love pineapple on pizza. She might just leave the call, and it'll be a really awkward end of the show. Anyways, so where were we?
Fuck this. No,
Oh,
no, thank you.
oh,
No, thank you.
oh,
No, thank
oh
you.
no, what have I done? Oh,
Okay, bye.
well,
I'll
it
come
was a
back.
good show, everybody. Good night. Bye.
Bye. For charity. Fine, for charity. Fine, I'll come back for charity.
Then have a cooking stream. Do you know what you would cook? Do you even have that planned?
If I do, so for the cooking stream, it would probably be like some diner staples. So I'll probably bake a pie. And I want to do like a classic diner breakfast. So like fried eggs, some bacon, some hash browns. Like I want to do like a classic like diner thing. Like so that's what I want to do for the cooking stream specifically. That's totally gonna be the vibe. I'm trying my best. Try to cook eggs on stream. It's like very nerve wracking because I love cooking and I think I consider myself a pretty decent cook. But like doing it in front of people is like a whole other level of pressure.
And plus just the sheer tech involved with cooking streams, it's a lot of work that you need to take a lot into consideration just in terms of technical practicalities, and that's even getting before safety and all the other considerations. So yeah, that makes sense. Then have sexy cosplay photo, and then if you all get to $25,000, surprise goal and Lala's Tears of Joy.
Yes, lots of tears. I probably will cry before that, so that's maybe a earlier secret milestone. I would be flabbergasted if we even get through a quarter of these goals. Because the last time I did a charity stream, it was like I want to say it was in the fall of 2022. Oh, it was the winter of 2022, and it was for the Sato project, which is the other charity I'm very, very passionate about. We're actually going to be doing another charity stream in June to highlight them, and they're a charity that raises funds for homeless dogs in Puerto Rico and provides care and shelter and all that stuff. And it's called Sato Project. And when I did that, my goal was $500, and we raised about $250. And then there was a matching person at the Sato who was like basically matching donations. So we hit our goal. But we raised like $250 actively on stream, and so this.
I think you're going to blow through that on your starting scene stream or starting scene stream.
Oh,
like,
I'm very.
I legitimately think you will hit that before the end of whatever your intro is tomorrow. I'd be willing to bet you're there. It's been a while since late 2022 for you, Lala.
Yeah, it's been a while, and it's I'm very it's obviously, we have some people who we have a particular guest who I'm sure will provide a little bit more eyes than normal in terms of at the diner, but I don't want to hold any expectation. The fact that even if we raise like $100 or even it's just that's amazing because this is a cause that personally affects me, and I've never done something like this before, so I will probably end up. Listen, I got a whole I got a whole roll of toilet paper ready to go to like wipe my tears. I got waterproof makeup. It's gonna be fine.
Good, you're going into this prepared. That's the important part.
Yes, yeah. So, but yeah, it's gonna be. I'm very much looking forward to it, and Gabi, who you said was here. I feel like she's like a cousin of mine because we've hung out before. I love her. She just is recovering from a surgery actually that she had. She had like a hysterectomy, and so we've been keeping touch in the 4 months that she basically took this big hiatus because I was like, that was like the surgery.
Yeah.
I
I'd reached out to her if she was going to be able to be on my 3rd anniversary marathon in January, and at that point she was in the middle of those several months, and I was like, I know you're recovering. I'm guessing you're not. I'm extending this invite just to let you know, like, you are wanted here. You would be invited.
Yeah.
I expect and almost encourage you to decline for your health, but, just I'm thinking of you because she has been through the ringer recently.
Yes, yes. And so, and we bonded a lot during that time because I did have this big surgery in 2022, and it wasn't a hysterectomy because I still have a dream of being a mom one day. So I want to keep all my biddies intact as long as possible. But we kept in touch during that time and really kind of bonded because she was dealing with a lot of stuff that I had dealt with. And when you talk to other people who have dealt with I guess American healthcare system and specifically issues regarding the uterus and stuff like that, you're left with a lot of waiting, no answers, going back and forth, and the process can take so long. And so we really bonded during that time. And Aki Faye has endometriosis, so I'm very glad that she's coming through, and she's a lovely she's a mom, and she works through that. So also excited to have her. And she has such a lovely vibe, and then of course we have Iron Mouse and we have Mousy, who I'm very, very honored and very nervous, but also at the same time it's gonna be fine. So but yeah, so it's a really great group of ladies. And we've had even at the very last minute, I'm including, there's some when I started posting about the charity stream. Oh, wait a minute. Hey.
Wait for it. Stand by.
Oh, I was gonna sneeze. Okay. It didn't come. It didn't come. It's like, you're like, huh. It didn't come. Okay. But I've had when I started posting about the charity event, I had people start reaching out, being like, "Well, this is amazing. I wish I could talk about it, or if this means a lot." And so I started being like, "Hey, if you want to share your story." So we have a few people who have had a person send in a video that I'll be sharing on stream. Some people wanted to share their story anonymously, so we have some of that. And it's very moving. But we're gonna have a great time tomorrow too. It's not gonna be somber, dim lights, cello playing, it's just yes, tone for your skin. That's not the vibe. I want it to be very fun and uplifting, and
this
while also raising awareness. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't I definitely am also, that's how I tend to navigate through my adversity. It's I like to try to have as best of a time as possible. So I try to provide the lightness even in the hardships. So that's kind of the tone I want for tomorrow too.
Do you remember,
so yeah,
was there a particular moment where you're just like, I want to do a charity stream for this? Was there either a moment, an event, or just were you thinking perhaps more broadly, hey, it's been a while since I've done a charity stream, and that things fell into place that way? What was the origin of this project?
So at the beginning, was it the beginning of this month or late February? I ended up very spontaneously actually in the emergency room. It was last month. It was at the end of February. And at the end of February, it was like a comment. Oh my God. The exact date was, it was the day after Valentine's Day, because I had this very romantic dinner at home with my husband. The next day I ended up in the ER because at 2:00 in the morning I was feeling an excruciating amount of pain, and my Shark Week had just started that night. And I was just like, what's going on? I was in pain for 6 hours, basically fell asleep because I took a bunch of melatonin to knock myself out. When I woke up, the pain was still there. And I was like, this isn't normal. So we went to the emergency room, and basically after a whole day of being there, they're like, there isn't anything intrinsically wrong with you, but it could be associated with after talking and evaluating all the things, they're like, oh, it could be just a really, really bad endometriosis flare up. And I was like, that's cool. That's awesome.
That's
yeah, that's great. Okay, cool.
Great.
So
it's certainly a thing of perspective. Okay, well, at least it's nothing new or different. Not great.
Yeah. So I went to the ER. That was what they gave me, some really strong painkiller and stuff to help me get back to business. But I was like, oh wow, this is kind of awful. And I've been having my pain since I had surgery has definitely amped up. I feel like I've learned a lot in the past couple of years ever since I was diagnosed, and um so when I came home and I was just kind of relaxing, and um even the next day I tried to push myself to like still keep up with my schedule because it happened on a Thursday, and I usually always stream Monday, Wednesdays, Friday, and I didn't want to
Mm.
disappoint anybody. So I went, I opened the Dino Doors on Friday, and I went live, but I think I was only live for like maybe like 3 hours, and I was like, I feel like really like garbage, and like
Mm.
of course, everyone around me is like, "Why did you even go live, you crazy person? You were just in the ER." I was like, "I'm still wearing the bracelet. Isn't it so nice to give you free jewelry at the ER?" And so,
Yeah,
like,
accessories.
accessories. They're like, "What are you doing? Go rest." And I was like, "What do you mean go rest?" I was like, "I don't understand what that is." But I finally listened to my body, and I was like, "Oh God." And then I got an email actually from my insurance that saying, they're like, "Oh, in anticipation, March is endometriosis awareness month." And I was like, something seems a little serendipitous about all the things lining up. And so I was like, it might be really nice to do something for endometriosis awareness month, because my life has changed because of this. And um and even though I've lived with it my whole life, having a late stage diagnosis, having the surgery I had, it's definitely changed things. It like how I have to like plan in my life for certain things. And I was like, it would be, I think, important to talk about it. And you have amazing people who have used their reach online, like not only VTubing, just people in general who have an audience that they really have fought for causes that are very personal that they believe in. And I was like, oh, maybe it's time for me to think about doing something like that. And I was very moved and very inspired by like the cyclothon that Mousy and Connor Sea Dog
Oh, Sea Dog
VA did.
VAs in Mouse.
Mhm.
Just the two of them
Yeah.
have been just first off, obviously the sheer amount of money that they have raised in the past couple of years
Yeah, that's
is
what I'm saying.
staggering. But also
It's
the
so amazing.
creativity with which they do it. Just Sea Dog VA. I love all his charity stuff, like the charity auction he did where he auctioned off all this the most absurd things you've ever seen for charity from content creators, and obviously the cyclothon, which is just what an incredible, even if it weren't charity related, it's such a cool project, such a
Yeah.
you could make documentaries out of that, of just
Yes.
cycling across Japan. That's so freaking cool. And the fact that they attach that to a big fundraiser, and he's done so much, and that the two of them together have raised literally in the millions of dollars at this point, and
Yeah.
it's just great.
Iron Mouse, like so many people in VTube, and they can point to her being like the reason they started, or she's a big inspiration. I am definitely among one of those people. The two people who I was very early on exposed to and fell in love with was Korone from Hololive, our favorite bakery doggo from Hololive Gamers, and then and Iron Mouse. But one of the things that was so amazing, of course, she's very inspirational story, but it's also like how you think you're like, oh, like VTubing can be just as silly, like can be such a silly space in a great way, right? You got people saying all kinds of jokes, you got people doing all kinds of bits, clips, moments that are very chaotic, very fun and wild. But then you have this really amazing example of how powerful, like, and what a palpable difference you can actually make in this space. And I think that's so incredible and so inspiring that literally raising, like when I was looking at the endometriosis foundation like website, and I was talking to my liaison there about like the causes, and that seeing like they'll do a walkathon, right? And they'll raise like maybe like 50K or something like that. And you're like, then you look at like Iron Mouse's like events, or you look at Sea Dog VA's events, and you're like $300,000. That's so wild. And it's just people all around the world who are so passionate about that. And I think that's so beautiful that you can really make such a profound difference. And so of course, when I was thinking about this, I'm very honored that, she spoke very highly of me in the past, and upon some encouragement from some people, from some people in my camps this day, they were like, maybe you should ask her. And I was like, fuck it, whatever. Nothing beats a failure but a
She's
try.
appeared on charity streams before that, there is a precedent for this, and
Yeah.
thank you to whoever encouraged Lala. Don't know if you're here or not, but whoever did, good job. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was very enthusiastic, and I presented 2 different charity ideas, and she like immediately responded to me, like, like 2 hours later she responded to me, and she agreed to do both of them. So she agreed to come on board for the Sato project in June as well. And so very, very appreciative that she so supportive, and she's been so lovely. She's so nice, and I'm just like, I'm very like, it just means a lot that she, obviously, like, she can pull in a lot of eyes, and for something that's really important, and that's very, very cool, very, very, like, I don't know, very moving that.
Also, I'm not
she's
sure,
totally
did we
down
just
to do
have
that.
an exclusive announcement on Vtuber Talk? Iron Mouse appearing on Lala's Sato project stream, date TBA?
Listen, she spoiled that she was coming onto the charity stream before I announced anything. So I guess I get to announce that she's gonna be part of the Sato project charity in June. So, so I guess that's a little trade secret. Yeah. So yeah, I do hope it's as Humphrey Bogart once said, it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship, like, and all for a good cause. And so that's
Mhm.
so that's kind of I don't know, I'm very excited for tomorrow. I'm nervous because I've never done something like this I'm not nervous about talking to Mousy. I guess I'm more nervous about doing a good job that's respectful, and because I feel a lot of pressure in terms of this, because it's my personal connection to it all. Of course, I'm a little nervous just talking to her. It's not like, oh yeah,
That's
easy
a
peasy.
very human
Yeah.
reaction. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that anybody would be understanding of
Mhm.
just a baseline amount of nerves.
Mm. So, but it's gonna be, I'm sure it's gonna be a great time. I've had a lot of encouragement. A lot of people who have offered, like, who don't have endometriosis, who have absolutely reached out and said that they wanted to help in some shape, way, or form. There's been people who I've asked, like, questions in terms of helping set up things, that they've been so helpful and so kind about lending their knowledge. And so it's really cool to have that encouragement too, where you have a lot of people who are like, this is, we believe in this cause, we believe in you. Like, that's been really helpful, because I've been working overtime and having, like, so much anxiety about it. So I'm very excited the day's here, because then I can finally, like, knock out for like 10 hours tomorrow night. Without any pressure. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned a couple times that you were actually working directly with the Endometriosis Foundation, that this isn't just, you go on to Tiltify or some other site and set up a campaign, which obviously is still totally legitimate, and that's always fantastic. But there is certainly something extra special when you're able to be in direct contact with the beneficiary of the actual charity event. And I did not know that they necessarily actually had that type of infrastructure, where it's not just, oh, you send an email and they sort of responded with, here's how you set it up, but that they actually gave you a liaison. So what was the process for all that like?
So once again, credit to Samaha. She's like, I compare her to, like, she she doesn't like being perceived, but she's like my girl in the chair, so to say. Like, she's been very helpful. Like, if I get overwhelmed with things, she'll be like, okay, this is how you can do that. Like, I was like, oh, I want to do this charity stream. I came up with this idea. Basically, we have a month to, like, mount this, but I'm totally down to do it. And she was like, okay, we're gonna do this. And she was like, just use their contact form. And I use their contact form on their website, but I'm also kind of a pest. I'm, like, kind of a pain in the ass. So I like emailed them like 4 times, and I was just, and like hit them up on social media. Like, I was like, I don't take no answer as an answer. Absolutely not. So then finally they're like, we received your communication. We heard from you.
We got the email.
we got your 17 fucking emails, lady. And I was like, I'm really passionate about this. So they did do the initial like, oh, here's all your assets, but then they gave some extra bits, and they provided a lot of information so that I could share tomorrow. I'm not a doctor. I only know like about myself and my personal journey. But it's helpful to be, it's like they're like, what is endometriosis? I was like, it's a really fun fucking time. That's what that is. Like I don't I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to say, like the process of like, the shedding of whatever it is. So it's nice that they were very helpful in terms of providing assets, and they were helpful in providing how do you say, like information, like quick information that I can share tomorrow. So in a more pointed way versus me being like, oh, I don't know, some mysterious stuff happens. You shed maybe a bit of extra goop. Shark Week is an appropriate name because all of a sudden you're providing chum. Like that's like, that would be my way of pitching it. So I'm glad that I actually have like a proper way of explaining it that, So that's basically it. And my goal, I want to like, in the same, like, kind of following in suit of her, like I want to show them just like VTubers, I feel like is, when you're in this niche, right? And it's a really small niche still compared to the grand scheme of like content creation, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's growing and growing. But I hope to be part of I hope to be able to showcase to the EndoFound, like the EndoFund rather, that there's a special connection that VTubers provide, and maybe not everybody understands what it is to be like a digital puppeteer, essentially, to like do basically live theater all the time. But the fact that you're doing it for a special cause, and I feel like, I mean, there's a lot of people who are very passionate about their particular content creator, but I feel like VTubers foster such an intimate relationship with their communities that you can really have so much support for whatever you're doing. And so I think it'll be a great way to also showcase the power of community within VTubing. And I really hope that also showcases for them, because I hope that it kind of proves something to them about the power of the positive power of VTubing and what it can do. So that's my hope too. So also, the liaison I've been working with is very nice, and
my guess is you're the first VTuber they've worked with.
Oh, yeah, for
did
sure.
Did you have to give them the talk? Did you have to explain? Okay, this is what VTubers are. This, I am not AI.
No, I didn't have to do that. They pretty much, I set up everything via Tiltify, but they didn't ask too many questions. They were just like, okay, this is normally what we do, and then I had to be like, hey, listen, I'm a VTuber, so usually like I like to have extra assets, or I like to put this other stuff, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. So it kind of made them think a little bit. They're a little slower in communication, but when they finally like got up to speed, they're like, oh yeah, here's a million bunch of stuff. Like, here you go. There's like, of course we're totally down. This is amazing. Totally happy to have your support. And so I'd love to turn around and be able to provide, something positive on, tomorrow. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's ever, the only VTuber who's done.
Yeah, I assume there have been other VTubers that have done Tiltify campaigns that have benefited the Endometriosis Foundation.
Yeah.
But my guess is you are the first VTuber, or at the very least one of the first, to actually be interfacing with them directly.
Yeah.
And it's strange because, like you said, obviously VTubing has been growing, and if you are in this community, it feels like it's huge now. It feels like, oh man, everyone, it's so obvious. Everyone should at least know what VTubers are, be aware of them.
Yeah.
In relativity, despite the genuinely incredible amount of growth that VTubing has had over the past 3-4 years, this is me just pulling numbers out of nowhere, but I feel pretty confident in saying less than 1% of content creators are VTubers. Probably less than 0.5%.
Yeah.
It's a very small number in relativity, even now.
Yeah, it is very small, and I come from the world of entertainment, and I feel like, there's like a handful of like individuals who know about my Hannah Montana lifestyle. Oh, hold on a second. take you off. I got a little. I got a little sweater on. Hold on. I'm just warming up. I'm like being active and I'm just talking a lot, so I'm just sweating.
Please stand by. Da-da-ba-ba-ba-da-da-da.
Okay. Woo! Okay. Uh, but I feel like I've had to, I'm a bisexual woman. I feel like I've had to come out like a little bit again and again and again. But as a VTuber, like I'm just like, Mom, Dad, it's time that we talk about my lifestyle. And they're like, oh no, what is it? I was like, I'm sorry. I'm
I'm a content creator, but it's not just that.
I'm a cartoon character, so it's like I feel like when I talk to, like, I've very recently, very, very recently only started telling some professional colleagues, about this new venture that I've been like diving into. And for like pretty much across the board, everyone has been so fascinated in such a positive way about it. But it definitely is like when you first say it, like nearly every single time, it's like, is it a sex thing? Is this like digital puppeteering? Is it a sex thing? I was like, it's not a sex thing.
At
Actually,
least
for the
not
most
for me.
part,
Well, it can be. There are those who do that, but not in my case.
Yeah. In my case, it's not. I was like, and no shame. Oh my God, of course not. Like, but but no. In my case, I run a diner and I say a lot of dad jokes, and I get beat up by pies. You have to be there. You have to be there. You gotta understand. So yeah, it's very it's interesting kind of talking about, because you feel like when you're within the space, it feels like so all encompassing. You're like, it feels like that's your whole world, right?
Yeah.
Like that is like, but it really is such a small part of like the big sea. It's a tiniest little pond in this huge fucking ocean. And so, but I think that perspective is good, because then when things go south or sour or whatever, things happen in the community, it's small. It's very small compared to the bigger scheme of things.
And even if it feels like the biggest thing in the world here, I very much agree. The perspective is everything. I'm curious, do you have your one-liner or your elevator pitch of how to explain VTubing to the layperson who does not know what it is?
Ooh, I like to use, especially for like people who like Disney. I was like, have you ever been to like the Disney parks and done like Turtle Talk with Crush? Like, it's the turtle from the movie who talks to the kids, and he's like, "Oh my God, look at your Buzz Lightyear backpack," and it's very interactive, but it's like a person obviously puppeteering it. That it's the same thing. So it's digital puppeteering essentially.
Yeah,
it's like the way that I say it. So like if I don't trust the person who I'm speaking to kind of understands what I'm talking about, I'll say, "Oh, I voice act a cartoon character." It's kind of like digital puppeteering on the internet. Like that's the way I say it, because that's so much more digestible for people than being like, I'm a VTuber, like that. It's just you just kind of adjust to whoever you're speaking to make it you just so they kind of understand the concept a little bit more. But I mean, it is cool to kind of see that more, like it's becoming so much more well known and like becoming so much more within like the pop culture ethos kind of.
The
like
amount that I have to explain it to people of our age range is decreasing very quickly.
Yeah.
That I still have to explain it very frequently to people who are of older generations, but that for the most part, I feel like our generation and younger are at least peripherally aware that they might not watch VTubers themselves, but they've probably encountered them enough to at least understand what it is. For folks that don't know, I have a two-step process. The first is, do you know what a YouTuber is? Do you know what a live streamer is? Just baseline. Go with, do you know of content creators? Because depending on how old the person you are speaking with is, they might not. And
that's
if
true,
you need to explain that, you would first explain that of ta-da. But also at the same time, for the, admittedly, I'd say, probably, 80% of people nowadays know what a YouTuber or a live streamer is. That you need to really be up there in age demographics for them not to understand that. And just the basic building block of, do you know what a YouTuber or live streamer is? then just tease up the second part of, have you seen mocap? You ever seen, Lord of the Rings, Benedict Cumberbatch being Smaug, or, anything with motion capture? Most people are aware of motion capture technology. And from there, it's a very easy connecting of the dots of, it's a YouTuber who uses motion capture stuff. And that's it.
That's perfect.
And that you get the light bulb really quickly. That just strip it down literally to the most basic fundamental concepts that you don't need to explain. You have all the interactivity and that people can be these different cartoon characters, that you can add that on afterwards. But being able to simply present those two halves, essentially, at least in my experience, has been the fastest way to get someone essentially up to speed on what a VTuber is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. I feel like definitely generationally, like that's a great point, because generationally, I definitely feel like there's a missing part. Like, I think I was listening to Pokemon's podcast, and she said 30% of kids nowadays, like when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they say, I want to be a YouTuber. Yeah. And even my nephew, for instance, so my nephew knows that so Lala is actually my IRL nickname that I got from my sister, and specifically my nephew. So it's like he calls me Titi Lala. That's where the name comes from. In the same way that my husband, Don, that's his nickname from my husband. And so I'm sorry there's not a more interesting story. That's just how it is. But so he knows that I'm a VTuber, and like my sister's like, "Oh, can you watch your streams?" My nephew just turned 9, and I was like, "Absolutely
no."
I was like, I was like, he's not allowed to watch this stuff. Like, there's certain like clips, like live streams, especially. No, I have clips that are totally like family friendly, that are just like a dumb
could
like
possibly curate something for him.
Oh yeah, for sure. But he's so funny, because I remember, because growing up, being a kid who like grew up literally with like the rise of the internet or whatever, you get savvy to things, and you know how to do things that maybe your parents didn't know. And so it's so funny talking to him.
Did he find you?
I mean, he knows about my stuff, and so he tells his classmates, "Oh, my aunt, my titi, she's a VTuber," and they're like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" I'm like, "Oh my god, don't please, don't look up my stuff." But they, it's so funny, because he'll be like, he'll be like, "Oh my god, I'm watching this YouTuber, and they said hello to me." And I was like, "You talking to that YouTuber?" He's like, "No, I'm not talking to the YouTuber who's live." And she's like, "No, maybe he just meant hello." I was like, "My nephew, my dearest darling nephew, whose wool do you think you're pulling over whose eyes, honey?" I was like, "I literally do this for a job, okay?" You're trying to be smart with me? Who are you trying to be smart with? You couldn't pull a fast one. I know the deep inner workings of the internet. I was here when it was incepted.
Do not speak of the old magic. I was there when it was written.
Yeah, literally that. And he thinks he's like, and I get it. You when you're a kid, you do things you don't want your parents to know about. I get it. So I take pride in the fact that I'm like, my husband and I are like the cool auntie and uncle, because then he'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna show you kind of what's going on, but don't tell mommy and daddy." I was like, "That's fine." As long as you're safe. But it is like, he definitely will be like, "Oh my god, I was making this thing in Minecraft." Like he there is this huge, like, when I was younger, I never thought of having my career at this at all. Like,
no,
it
was movie star. It was be an actor, maybe be a voice actor, but that quite plainly, this did not exist as a career path. It wasn't even that, we didn't necessarily think of it, because there's a lot of careers that have existed for a very long time that children generally just don't think of, because they aren't necessarily visible ones, that people don't necessarily think of, okay, I want to do marketing, or I want to do, any number of other things, that it's the visible ones that people think of. But that YouTubing, content creation as we know it today, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it was barely viable.
Yeah, I feel like the closest thing that's within this camp is like, because I think I started cosplaying when I was like 13, so I feel like that's probably the only thing I could compare it to, where like when I was like, it's like, "Oh, I'd be a cool kind of career path being a professional cosplayer. And at the
Mm,
time, there was literally like a handful. Like back, they would have
yeah.
maybe appear on like G4, as like, they try to treat him like basically like a Disney face character or something. It was such a novelty,
Yeah.
and way back when, that was kind of the world that like I grew up in. And so I'm like, oh, the concept, yeah, being a YouTube, what? No, I never thought about that. Like my aspiration, I didn't even my regular career, which is being a costume designer, film and television. That seemed like a dream career that was only accessible to like a lucky few. I was totally resigning my fate to being a teacher, like a creative writing teacher. And so like I didn't know that was, all these things were possible. And so like even 5 years ago, if you asked me, be like, oh, by the way, you're gonna be a content creator in 5 years. I'm like, get the fuck out of town, you fucking liar. Like
If you're going to lie
never
to me, make it believable.
yeah, exactly. Like totally. It's so wild. You never know. And but I think it's really cool. I'm so grateful. I love doing this. This has been so much fun. Every day, I only get stressed because I have very big ambitions and I'm a very ambitious person, like in terms of my creativity. But I have so much fun every single day. Like I'm always thinking about new things to do in this space. I think I literally planned out what the rest of the year is looking like in terms of
Ooh.
projects. Yeah, just get so excited. I was just like, oh my god, I have all these things, and sometimes I'll even I'll message someone and be like at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh, I have this idea. She's like, you crazy bitch, stop. I was like, oh my god, but it's gonna be so great. And she's like, and then of course I do it, and then she's like, mad woman, complete mad woman. Like I won't stop until like it's done. Like totally workaholic, but it's because it's so fun. I don't know. And
Mm.
I find it very addicting.
You mentioned
Mm.
that you started cosplaying at 13. You've mentioned many times that you do costuming work professionally. And the comment you made earlier about you starting to tell a couple of trusted folks that are colleagues of yours is interesting. And I feel like people who are in show business probably are going to be among the more understanding, just
Yes.
sort of baseline. One, they're probably going to be at least mildly familiar with the technology at play here, and just that content creation is now part of the entertainment industry at large. So they're probably, even if not really familiar with VTubers, that the explanation process is going to be a lot simpler, and that as someone in show business, they probably are going to be much more appreciative and respectful of what goes into content creation baseline that the layman does not necessarily think of. That many people, when they hear content creation, they think, oh, it's such an easy thing to do. People just sit in front of a camera and play games all day or whatever, and do not realize the production that goes in behind it. But someone in show business is going to understand the production that goes in behind it.
Yeah, I do definitely. There's an understanding for sure, and it's also a big difference if I'm like, oh, I'm doing this thing, and I show them. I'm very grateful that in the past year and a half that I've been doing VTubing. In May we celebrate 2 years of VTubing. I've definitely grown quite a bit since I first started. And it also makes a big difference when I'm like, oh, I'm doing this thing, and they're like, what is this like puppet thing, whatever? And then they're like, you have how many flowers? Then they're like, oh, well, tell me about this thing. It's very interesting too, because not for nothing, entertainment, a lot of entertainment people see your value in terms of what you can offer them. So you show something of value like that, they're like, ooh,
they will suddenly pay more attention.
Yeah, it's wild.
If you were able to show them numbers or projects and, for lack of a better term, results, that it will turn heads a lot quicker than just saying, oh, I do the thing.
Yeah, which kind of makes me sad because I take so much pride in my work. Like I put so much into the work that I do, and it's a big part of me as a person. Like I really like one of my like love languages, the way that I like to connect with people really is creatively. And so sometimes I do get sad when like that like they'll reduce like really fabulous, like hard work to like that. But that's a whole other conversation. But but yeah, they've been, for the most part, like, yeah, people have been more open because it's entertainment or whatever. And especially in my neck of the woods, ever since 2020, it's the entertainment business has been such a tumultuous space
Oh, to
because
say the least.
yeah, so I feel like, the fact that so many people in entertainment have found like other avenues to like express their art or like dive into things. I feel like especially now people have become so much more understanding of like other areas of interest or pursuits and stuff. And this isn't my first time doing something outside of film. I feel like I was chasing a hobby that I could really decompress with that didn't have anything to do with my career. I took my hobby, I made it into a career and I've been in that career for like a decade. And I was like, I need something to like decompress. And so I dabbled in, then I started rediscovering video games again as an adult. I started, I dabbled in burlesque. I started doing like geek fashion show. I started doing like all kinds of different things to like just kind of, jog different parts of my creativity. And then when VTubing was introduced to me by a friend, I was like, oh my God, this is like combining a million different things that I'm so in love with. And it really is but yeah, I definitely feel like within the entertainment space it's so much more like, yeah, people are so much more like ready to accept that versus like telling like a random person like about it, and who doesn't, they're just like, it's totally foreign. And that's okay. Not everyone's gonna get it, and that's okay. They're not the people that you want hanging out with you. If they don't get it or they think it's
If
weird,
they're not going to respect
even
it, they're
waste
not
time.
worth the time
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I think it's really fucking neat. I think it's really cool to see how people express themselves. It's very much like drag, right? It like brings out this like inner person, or it's compared a lot to wrestling too, where it's like you have this like element of kayfabe where you bring up like this part of yourself that is, it's a bit of a character, but it is an expression of you as a person, because it
Yes,
expresses
yeah.
like your interests, the things you're passionate about. And I think that's what is also really special, because it's like everyone is introducing themselves in this space as something that they really love and comes from that point of view. And so that's what makes it really, I don't know, it makes it very exciting to meet other people who are sharing, the things that are important to them. I don't know. VTuber is fucking cool.
Yes,
It's fucking
it
rad.
is.
Yeah.
It is very cool. It is fun. It is a good time. And like you mentioned, that wrestling and kayfabe is a very good analogy. It's one that I've used before, of just people are in a way putting on an act, so to speak, in the sense that, people are going to be a bit of higher energy perhaps, or play up certain elements, especially if it's a part of their character, of their design. But that I don't think I've seen anybody do VTubing where there wasn't at least a good portion of their true self in there. That people aren't doing this. It's not pure acting. It is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a hyperbolized version of yourself. You basically give them permission to do all the crazy stuff, and sometimes literally physically the stuff that your body can't do.
Yeah.
And I think that's, that's why there's so many. You have disabled creators, you have people who are trans in this space. It really makes it this really wonderful place to explore this part of yourself you're not able to sometimes in your regular life.
Iron Mouse physically probably would not have been capable of face cam content creation.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's really cool that people have been able to experience even like, and to connect with people all over the world, which is really, really cool. Really, like, really dope. And on top of that, get to and see the world through the the way that they want to, which is, by this like I don't know, OC character, whatever they decide to put out there. Even if you like, for instance, there's definitely elements of Lala that are, like physically, that are inspired by myself, but there's also a bunch of other bits that are mixed into the wonderful thing. I don't have eyes that are like half my face. I promise. I don't
I am
need to
in
scare
fact
anybody. Yeah.
not a microphone.
What?
I'm sorry to just
What?
break the immersion and just ruin everything here. I'm not a microphone.
Oh
I'm
my god,
sorry.
I've been, once again, I just can't believe it. I'm just I come here for a good time and I'm just constantly being disrespected. I'm being lied to.
I can hear the Twitlongers being written right now. Oh
I can't believe it.
no.
Oh, I can't believe this. Again, I will not be disrespected in the public like this. I can't be lied to like this. What is this?
Well,
I
it
can't
was it
believe
was a good
yeah.
show, everyone. Good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, like yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I mean, I think that's what's really cool. I don't know. There's a lot of really wonderful, cool people in this space. I didn't think I'd be making friends in my early 30s still. I thought that, like, the people I had in my life would be enough. And yet every day I'm discovering, like, not, I'm discovering and wanting to build relationships with people that I never thought I'd maybe look into as an adult. So it's just nice. That's nice. It's like life keeps on surprising you, and I definitely think VTubing is a huge part of that. And
Mm,
so yeah. It's so nice to
Rewinding.
hang out with a cute little, like,
Yeah.
talking microphone.
Yeah, I love being in the mic. Fun.
Yeah, just a little guy.
Rewinding things a little bit. You
Yeah,
mentioned that you started cosplaying at 13, that somewhere along the
yeah.
line you realized that it could be a career path. Do you recall the light bulb moment for you? Was there a light bulb moment, whether it was either seeing a movie, a show, or production where you really liked the costumes and suddenly realized, oh, wait, someone had to do that. That's someone's job.
Mm.
Or perhaps you met somebody. Was there, uh, can you recall the first time that you actively considered making costuming your career?
Yeah, there's two different movies that I feel like very much determined and changed the course of what I wanted to do. Like I always, like, in my hand, I grew up in a very I grew up in a home that was incredibly encouraging of using your imagination. My mom was incredibly creative. My dad is the big comic of the family. So we but they both really loved, like, classic movies, and we always watched, like, behind the scenes, like, scenes of movies and all that stuff. And so
Mm,
I already loved, like storytelling from the get-go, like, growing up, because my family was that's just the way that they operate. But, specifically, um, I know it's not everyone's Star Wars movie, but it was my Star Wars movie. Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace changed my life. And then, and also additionally, Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Those are the two movies that I was like, this is amazing. How do I get to do that? And I didn't know that. I just thought that costume design was something that, like, I don't know, you get magically picked somehow. And then, like, only a handful of people get to do something like that for their career. Like, I was like, there's no way that I could do it. But it definitely triggered this very deep sense of, like, I want to do something like create these beautiful character, or, like, create stories by using cosplay. Like, this is so cool. And I was also, like, a big anime and manga fan, and so, like, combining, like, I was like, well, I'm learning how to, like, cosplay, but costuming is different because you're actively being part of the storytelling process, and I thought
mm,
that was so amazing. And so by the time I started finished cosplaying, which was, I want to say, I think my last big con I cosplayed at was, like, Con 2008. And it was around that time that definitely my life was starting to shift. And um I was getting a little exhausted of cosplay, in the sense of, leaving whatever, personal drama things aside. I was just getting tired of replicating designs that existed. I wanted to keep on chasing, like, doing stuff of my own design. Like, I was like, oh, I want to do this thing that's so, like, I can pull references, I can do the research process, I get to choose my fabric, I get to truly create something that helps people understand the depths of the emotion of this person as a character. I want to do that. And so, I was it was around that time that I started, like, really thinking about it, but I still didn't know that it was a career option. I just thought, well, at the very least, I can do this as a hobby. And when my husband and I, way back when, because we're high school sweethearts, he was the one who ended up going to school for film school, and he was like, you can actually do what you want to do as a career. It's not just a dream. You can actually do this. And so he actually was the one who really helped me go towards the path of that. And and started and I started my journey by like volunteering on like student film sets and like, I'm a talker for sure. And so like I got to meet a lot of people and like help on a lot of things. And that was the start of it all. But it was like those two movies kind of really set me forward because I was like, this isn't just like this isn't just a dress. This is a statement that is showcasing like the aesthetic of the director, the aesthetic of the world that we're immersed in. And there's other movies since then that I'm like if I ever feel like creatively drained, I always go back to because they're so visually stunning. Like The Fall, which is a Torsten Singh movie. He did The Cell. The Fall is this gorgeous movie in terms of the costumes. And there's like certain movies that I just love going back to if I just need a little like creative push or re-energizing. And I'm so grateful for art like that in this world that I don't know keeps on giving. I don't know. So yeah. So but those two movies, long-winded answer, but those two movies in particular, I resonate with a lot. Yeah.
Was there a particular outfit in either of them that caught your eye, or was it just the full production?
For Phantom Menace, I think it's like the very iconic Amidala. That was the one that left such an impact because it's like the first like thing you see, and like I remember being so gobsmacked and being like, oh my God, like what is that? And I was so obsessed. I have all like the collectible Barbie dolls that they made at the time of her and her different outfits. And I still have them to this day. And I dressed up as her for Halloween in that outfit. It's like her royal dress is the red one that has the big like, the big like bulbous things on the hem of the skirt and stuff. And then in Sleepy Hollow, it was specifically the actress's name is Miranda Richardson, I think. It's like the dress she wears towards the end of the movie. Not Katrina Van Tassel, not Christina Ricci, but her stepmother in the film. She wears this like it's like a laser cut velvet like period inspired dress. It's so interesting, and I was like, what the heck is that? That's so cool. I love that. It's just like it's clearly inspired by the period that this film takes in, but it's totally otherworldly at the same time. And I just thought it was so cool that you can combine those things, and it just shows that you can be inspired from different things to create a very big visual impact. And I feel like those are the movies that like taught me that at a very young age. And then I just kind of maybe like, I don't know, maybe that's what directed me for the rest of my life in terms of my creative taste. I don't know. But yeah, those two particular dresses and moments in those movies. Yeah,
that makes sense. Certainly for Star Wars, that I logically, I had a feeling it was going to be Amidala's dress because, all right, no disrespect to the costuming job that was done for Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Anakin, but they are very plain outfits. That is aesthetically the design. That they succeed in what they were designed to do, but that they are in tan or brown robes for the most part, and that Tatooine just as is the style there for what makes sense given that setting. That it is on the more, I don't want to say monochromatic side because it's more the browns and grays and blacks and whites, but that they are simpler designs in terms of creation, but that they still have to be done very well, and they were done very well. But certainly for eye-catching ones, like you mentioned, Amidala's dress is just so iconic. And I'm actually going to send you an image that I saw recently that it's difficult to believe it's the 25th anniversary of the film.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! And that they did this incredible 25th anniversary poster, and the centerpiece of it is Amidala in her chair, and it's just a very well done poster in general. So
yeah, oh my goodness, I love it so much. It's such like I feel like I was so struck because I wasn't anti Star Wars, but I definitely my first introduction. I don't remember watching the original trilogy before watching The Phantom Menace for the first time in theaters. Right, that's how I was a kid in theaters and saw that was the Star Wars movie I saw on the screen, and I had been aware of the original Star Wars movie and I liked them because I'd gone to like Disney World and I did like the Star Tours ride or whatever, and that was a movie that awakened something like I want to like dive deep into this world. But I think it's so striking because even within Star Wars, like if you're like your first introduction is like Princess Leia and Luke and Han and stuff, then you see the Phantom Menace and it's so lush design wise. It's so fabulous.
Mhm.
And it sets the tone because they're trying to establish this different time period within like the lore of the universe and stuff. And it's just brilliant. And Trisha Bigelow, who's a costume designer, she definitely did research and took elements from like many different cultures, kind of created an amalgamized her like Amidala's entire closet. And I just think it's such a it awakened something in me, and that I started studying just independently. I was just like a research nerd. I was just like, I want to watch the behind the scenes a million times over on my VHS until like a fucking catches on fire. Like I want to watch I want to see her process of how like she did this. And I started looking. Okay, I watched Sleepy Hollow. I love that movie. But then I started being like, I want to watch your entire filmography and like see how you approach different stories and how you like translate this. This is so fascinating. And I was like a kid, and I think what was it? I was thinking I was in my early. Oh, I don't know how old I'm. I'm not gonna say the year I was born. It's fine. But I think I was like 11 or 12 or something, and it left such a profound impact on me that
Mhm.
to this day, like I get so like swallowed up in like the inspiration of something, and it consumes me. Like even for like VTubing, when I'm doing a project, it's never like, oh, I have this cool idea and blah blah blah. I'm like, I go to the nth degree in terms of the kind of research and aesthetic I want to do.
You're very thorough.
I'm very thorough, and because for me, not because I'm like I want to be the best. It's because I'm like that's literally part of the fun for me is doing the research. I mean, that's why I love what I do. Like doing research, it's like I have the fun, looking at all like different. You just get exposed to so many things in this world, and it's so cool. I don't know, and I think that awakened something inside me, and it wasn't midichlorian. It was just design sensibilities.
As you were describing all that, though, that I didn't even think about it until just now. But you were talking about how there hadn't been anything like that in Star Wars, and I just realized until Episode 1, throughout the entire original trilogy, we see nothing even vaguely resembling fashion, like high fashion, metropolitan, because Episode 1 is Tatooine and the Death Star, and on ships. Episode 2 is Hoth, and I guess you see Bespin, which is it's not metropolitan. It's a mining facility. It's a industry town. And Episode 6, you have Tatooine again, the Death Star, and Endor, which is not developed apart from the little bases. That there's no, you never see high society. You never see fashion, because everything that people are wearing throughout the original trilogy is either, for lack of a better term, peasant garb, or military garb, or other war garb. That even Princess Leia, she is a princess. She is our princess. And she is in a very plain white dress for the first movie, and then she basically is in military garb for the rest of it. That we never see high fashion. And then you have Episode 1, and you see Amidala, you see the others from the Naboo Council in these fine robes, and then you get to Coruscant.
Yep.
And just, I hadn't even realized mentally until this moment, just the enormous step, the divergence that the first time you're on Coruscant is such a big first for the franchise, and it didn't hit me until now.
Yep. Coruscant and Naboo, it is just a whole different design aesthetic and theming, and it just goes to show just like the world, like how important when you tie all those elements together in terms of creating a convincing world, like visually for somebody, and those details matter, like how you tie in, you can't just have Amidala going around in like a simple thing in this enormous gorgeous palace on Naboo. Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know,
it makes sense that you see Leia in simple stuff because she's never in a palace, but she's always, even in Episode 4, that she's supposed to be a sort of not quite incognito, but she's low profile. It's a diplomatic mission that she is not supposed to be ostentatious. And then obviously everything from there, it would not be practical or logical for her to be in fine princess garb. But Amidala, Queen of Naboo, holding council meetings at the Senate. She shouldn't be in anything else.
Yep. It's so true. And so it's really when you start, oh my God, don't get me started. We can turn
it's
this
a talk
whole,
show, Lala.
I was like, get ready for 3 hours of just me going into really nitty-gritty details about my favorite movies in terms of their design ideas, aesthetics, and storytelling.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
But it's true, if you I encourage anybody, if you're ever stuck, I know some people have expressed who have come into the diner and they're like, oh, I want to start VTubing, but I get stuck in terms of what I want to do. Or they're like, I am a VTuber, but I get stuck in terms of what I want to do. And I was like, don't look for just inspiration in the VTubing space. You're limiting yourself. There's a whole world of art, media, photography, stories, films that can totally inspire how you take something and you put your own truth and your own heart and your own experiences into that aesthetic that inspires you, and you can really come out with something really wonderful. And I think movies like that really felt such an impact. I'm definitely more of a movie person than a television person, just because I love being totally sucked up into a world for 2 hours. You're like, wow, I totally felt transported, and I feel that's so powerful, that the ability that films can do that. And even though I work in movies, by the way, I still find the magic in watching them. I know, I worked at Disney, same thing at Disneyland. I worked behind the scenes at Disneyland, and it still didn't change my experience of I have all sorts of fun Easter egg stories and stuff, but it doesn't take away my enjoyment of what that experience is. I've been able to separate it, but I think that filmmaking and things like that is just a testament in terms of how do you really actualize and show, I guess, a story by combining all these different elements from cinematography, lighting, production design, costume design, your casting, the locations, all everything. And it's really, I don't know. I find myself constantly when I find something I really love, media wise, I definitely can hyperfixate. ADHD definitely helps for sure. But I find, and I think that's what's really fun about being a geek or a nerd. I feel like that's such a relatable thing. I think that's the thing that gets so many people connected, that you'll be nuanced. How many discussions have I had with cosplayers once upon a time in terms of what fabrics that they use for the different costumes in a movie or something, or that was part of the fun when I first started cosplaying, is trying to analyze frame by frame, because the final image is not necessarily the actual color of what something was, because lighting and post-processing, if they put a light in in post or whatever, it's just you feel like a sleuth, like a nerdy sleuth. And I think you can really pull a lot of inspiration from things like that in terms of in terms of even the process. But like you said, it's very impactful. These different worlds because they've established what these different worlds are, from their aesthetic, the what they wear, from the people who live there. What's the story? You only see a slice of life moment. You only see maybe you're exposed to 30 minutes in this world, but when you're in that 30 minutes, you gotta believe that in that 30 minutes there is a whole civilization that existed, and that you're only getting to peer into the slice of it. It wasn't just created for this movie. They won't let you believe that they really, it's so important to create that depth and richness to something. And I think that's really cool. I don't know, I love movies, they're so fucking cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Is
so
there, in your own work, that obviously you do not discuss the particular projects you are working on or have worked on, but in your own work, to whatever level you are comfortable talking about it, do you have any examples of a project, or actually, trying to figure out the best way to phrase this.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to reverse engineer it. Is there something that you haven't done? So this is the safe territory. Is there something that you haven't done in your costuming work in terms of either a piece, that you want to make, or an era you want to work in? Something that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
I would love, like, I costume design a period movie that takes that's about like a gangster, and it goes from like 1917 all the way to 1980. And that was really fun. And I love period work. Obviously, I love vintage costumes and fashion. Like, oh, surprise, surprise. Nobody would have
You
ever
don't
guessed
say.
that. Wow, crazy. But I would love to do like I would love something that is like mid-century but totally frivolous. Like totally like light in the design of it, or kind of kooky, or bright. Like I want to play with something that is maybe inspired by aesthetic but lets you play within that aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like I've done the very strictly period stuff, right? Where I really know like down to like the lapels and how they changed and how suits changed, different like by the decades within the 20th century.
Yeah.
But I would love to do something that is inspired by an era, but it totally like puts it on, like turns it on its shoulder. Like for instance, there's a movie, what was it called? Oh, Jingle Jangle is a great example. So it takes like, I don't know, like typical like Christmas movie silhouettes, like elves and Santa, all this stuff. And it totally gave this like new flavor to it. Like I love that. I love the idea of taking something that exists and putting a new spin on it. And I haven't been able to do that yet. I love like whimsical, like my taste. I like to play. I love to play with like contrasting textiles for sure. I like to feel whimsical in my designs and things like that, but it all has to make sense for the story. Like I'm not gonna be like, let me make like a peacock blue suit that's made out of this like detailed brocade for this like drug dealer who lives in like the in the slums of Chicago or something. You don't do that. Like it doesn't make sense for the story. It all stems from what the needs are within the story that you're trying to work on and try to actualize, right? So yeah, I would love to do, or like a Marie Antoinette, so like an 18th century, Rococo piece would be really fun because you get to play with all these fabulous like colors and silhouettes and stuff. Like I've only been able to dabble in like I've done like commercials or things like that where I've been able to like have like maybe one WOBBLER princess, but to have like where you're dressing like 300 extras in that kind of, oh my God, I mean, that'd be crazy. Like I'd probably like lose my mind in terms of like getting that all together. But at the same time, like how like, oh my God, like that challenge would be so cool. And then like seeing it all actualize and come together. Oh, that'd be fabulous. I would love that. Yeah. So those are kind of like dream ideas I'd be a part of. But honestly, for me at this point in my career, I feel like I'm chasing either, I'm not chasing a specific aesthetic I want to work on. Nowadays, like it really has to be a story I feel connected to that I want to be a part of. Like it's okay if it's street clothes, as long as like what is my purpose on this project? Like if it's just, I think that's what I'm searching for nowadays, like in the projects I end up being attached to. So I have to really like love and resonate with the story and the script before feeling like, oh yeah, I could do something really crazy or fun or whatever. Because if the script is complete garbage or it's like whatever, and even if it's a fun aesthetic, I'm like, I don't know if I want.
If you can't have confidence in the project, with relatively few exceptions, assuming they aren't bring a dump truck of money to your house, that you're probably not going to be as eager to work on something.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that's kind of where it is. But yeah, anything that's high aesthetic of any sort, of course that's always fun because then you get to really like flex your design abilities, right? Like street clothes are very, I feel like movies that have contemporary fashion and particularly like contemporary street fashion, I feel like are very difficult movies to costume design because everybody's got an opinion in terms of what's appropriate. And so your role as a costume designer really is like, people really, how do you say, they're very patronizing about like your involvement or your design decisions. And it's like, it doesn't matter if it's someone who is, in 2024, who's a mom and has 2 kids. There is absolutely still a whole design arc that you have to provide for this character because she goes through her own hero's journey. And how am I supposed to show that for this mom? You do it by color, like where is she
even
from?
If
like,
it is perhaps mechanically simple in the sense of, okay, You are not having to
Yep.
engineer a complex Amidala level dress,
Yep.
but that it is going to be conceptually complex, where, like you were saying, that you need to really figure out not only the specifics of, okay, especially if this is current day, recent day, that you need to be honing in on things, and that you might even take into consideration perhaps regional fashion, depending on how important it is. That if this is anywhere USA, that doesn't necessarily matter, but if this is happening in Hollywood, if this is happening in New York City, if this is happening in I don't know, if this is happening in San Antonio or something, or Minnesota, that there's going to be nuance involved there, and that if anything, it's going to be under heavier scrutiny because of its current day, and you try to present that and people don't, that you as a viewer and that the layperson as a viewer will be able to pick up on discrepancies in current day in a way that only experts will be able to pick up discrepancies in period pieces.
Yep. And, it's really interesting because I feel like there's, you learn, exactly. Like, there's certain things that people won't even pick up, but, there's so many examples of really great costume design that you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that in terms of costume design. Like, one of my favorite examples to use is like The Hangover. Like, that's a great costume design because you get a very, very good sense of every single character out of the gentlemen, in terms of how they are. They have their suits and stuff, but then when they're in their casual clothes, you get a sense. And casting plays into that too, but it plays into like, how are you designing this character? Costume design is live action character design. You take the concept of what you do in 2D or 3D in terms of creating this character from scratch. You get a lot more play in terms of silhouettes you can build to exaggerate like personality traits. But in the live action and the physical, that's what that equates to. And you pair your skills up with the hair and makeup department, and you talk with the actors, talk to the directors, you kind of really work out where this character is coming from, especially in feature film. In television, a little different, but it's, and then you develop this point of view. And I mean, like, that 3 Howling Moon shirt that Zach Galifianakis wears in The Hangover, I think that was like a costume shirt the designer like put together and like pitched the idea, and like it like went to a back and forth between her and Zach Galifianakis, and they like came up with the idea, like, how do you amp up something? Costume design in comedy is so important because it becomes a part of the punchline of a joke. It's a really powerful form of storytelling, and so I love it. I think it's very, very cool. So, but I've been able to translate a lot. I'm still figuring out like maybe a more tangible way in which I can like connect this thing that I've been doing for so long. But so far it's been fun because I've been, I designed for the most part all the Lala, all my outfits, that's of my own design. Even like my, I worked with an artist who helped me like develop like the aesthetic of Lala, like, my main outfits. But I pretty much, for the most part, like, it was like 90% there, and then they were a great artist and kind of drew it out. I was like, I want this exact top and this exact skirt, and like kind of no leeway, like I kind of, and so it's been fun to exercise my design abilities in this space. But I'm still kind of figuring out how more I can do it, and we'll see. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but yeah, one day. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. To whatever degree you are comfortable saying, I'm hoping this is a vague enough question. Yeah. What is the most unorthodox material you have ever worked with? This could be over your time in cosplay or in professional. You don't even need to say what the full outfit was, but does anything stick out in your mind of this one time I had to use this material, and it's just something really offbeat, something you might not have worked with before, something you might not have even thought would be practical to ever use because it's so offbeat? Or conversely, what is the most challenging material that, even if it is sort of a common component, is there something that the layperson might not realize, oh yeah, that thing that you see in all these costumes is actually a pain in the butt?
I definitely have a lot of experience. So, I have a film version and a non-film version, but interesting story. So I designed this film back in 2023, 2022. It was actually I was on this movie before I had to leave early for my surgery, for my uterus surgery. I was on this movie, and they cut this scene, which I was so depressed about because
Oh,
we created. There was a lot of factors that happened. Like they decided to nix the scene the night they were shooting it. There were so many factors, but I had engineered. There's this thing I had come. This movie was all about like high fashion, but in a weird avant-garde way for a wedding, and I was constantly trying. Like we had animatronic costumes, but I'm not saying like a puppet. Like I'm talking about like it was like chiffon that had these like motorized elements. So when you're standing, you had these like twisting fabrics that were going around this
oh,
body, and so it made it
whoa.
like otherworldly and very ephemeral and beautiful for this wedding sequence, and so I was like really pushing myself in terms of like out of the box in terms of what I could do. And I was scrolling TikTok late at night. And after I had maybe a little bit of funky cabbage or whatever you want to call it. And I was watching, my feed is filled with usually like VTuber clips, like cooking content creators, dog videos, and sewing videos, like technique videos. And so I
Mhm.
was watching this video about embroidery, and a common thing that you do in embroidery is that you put like a water soluble stabilizer underneath the design. So let's say you put your embroidery on the machine, you put this on the material with it because then it makes the fabric not wrinkle when you're sewing the embroidery. And what you do is that you run that fabric underneath water and it literally dissolves. You're like, oh, then, so you don't have to see it, but you have this beautiful fabric. It's clean for this. And I was like, oh my God, the ending of this movie is the husband, like the bride and the groom kissing underneath this like very like fantastical like rainstorm that is only raining on them, but the entire wedding guests are just looking on in this circle. I was like, what if we made their jackets, like their wedding outfits, out of this like dissolvable stabilizer, so as they're kissing it literally like melts off their bodies and it reveals like this like other costume underneath it. And so I pitched it to the director. She was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And we did like literally like 4 weeks of like tests and prototypes to make sure. And we did, like what temperature it had to be. We coordinated with the special effects department because we were going to do like,
You've introduced engineering into the costuming
yeah.
department all of a sudden.
Mhm. Yeah, and so, and we tested it with, like, the choreographer because there was a little bit of, like, movement at the sequence and stuff like that, and so we did that, and we had it all set up. It was very, very cool. We were, like, good to go on the night, and we managed to do it so, like, the outfits underneath it were these, like, beaded outfits that had rhinestones, so it's, like, this very how do you say it? It was, like, a very light see-through fabric, but then when it melts away, it's like all of a sudden you have these sparkling outfits underneath, both of them bride and groom. So it's very, like kind of thing. And the night we were shooting it, the temperature dropped so low that it literally
That
became a health
chemically.
hazard. It became a health hazard in terms of doing the rain
Oh,
sequence with these
oh, oh.
actors. And so
Mm.
they were so literally we
They didn't
were
want a singing in the rain issue where
mm-mm.
the actor got pneumonia and almost died after
Yep.
that famous scene being rained on for however many
Yep.
hours.
Yep. And so because we weren't on a stage, we were outdoors. We were shooting in Georgia, and they had this whole rain rig and all this stuff. It was a lot of money that was
Yeah.
basically wasted. That never mind. I think like between the prototypes and everything, I think it ended up being like $12,000 just to prototype these
Oh,
jackets
I could
and
believe that
kind of
easily.
thing. And that was
Not to mention just labor
my
hours.
yeah, that was just for my department. That like there was like $20,000 that was spent on like for the special effects for this rig that we never used that night. And so it's like there was literally like in a blink of an eye, like 40
Oh,
to 50K because I'm only mentioning those two, but literally like because there was overtime that night, it was like $50,000 that literally just
just
went into
literally got
the
rained out.
yeah, literally rained out. Yeah, exactly. No pun intended, but that's literally what happened. I was so bummed because I was like, this is
Ugh.
so cool. I feel like I did something really, really neat that hadn't been done before. And
Yeah, so like that's the type of thing that you I think of, and it sort of makes me feel like, okay, if that had actually happened, you might not have been able to tell that story because it feels like it'd be so identifying because people would probably notice that.
Yeah, and I still hold that, close to my chest because I would like to experiment with that in a future
Yeah, no,
project
you've got
one day.
proprietary
Yeah.
technology here,
Yes.
Lala, of just,
Mhm.
at the very least, I presume that you were able to retain that in your portfolio and that it's something that,
I've shared it with, like, producers since then and things like that, and they're like,
and that if there's
"You
ever that
are a
opportunity
maniac."
for
Yeah.
something like that,
Mhm.
that you probably have a non-zero amount of the work done, that I'm sure that whatever circumstance you might find will be somehow different from the original one, but that that now you're probably sort of in the mindset perpetually of looking for a place to use this technology, this technique that you have developed, and that when you find the opportunity and the right producer, director to be bold enough to go with it, that you won't be starting from square one again.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. The good thing is that we took lots of videos of the tests. And what's good is that if I was to do, in the future, if I want to like go down this route and do it on a project, I know exactly what's required to do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not like it's like a foreign thing that I don't know how to do. I know how to do it now. So that's the good thing. So I know exactly
She
like
has
what
the
the steps are.
technology.
Yeah, I have the knowledge, and so, yeah, it's like, watch out. I got, knowledge is power. I got so much of it now. But then, but it wasn't the first time I've worked with unconventional materials. I participated, in this geek fashion show at Comic-Con, in San Diego, and, I did this design that was inspired by WALL-E, the Pixar movie, and I made it entirely out of garbage. And
Ah.
but it was really, really cute. It was like a very like Betsy Johnson, like 2000s, late 80s, like it was like late 80s aesthetic mixed with like Betsy Johnson silhouettes of the early 2000s. And it was like this cute little tiered skirt made out of like cardboard and crepe paper and like a coffee bag jacket and a paper mache um a corset bustier with like a recycled canned elements and stuff, and it was like really, really cute. And I got written up by Disney Style, the New York Times interviewed me and all this stuff. And it actually led me to another project with Disney where I then ended up doing a similar thing but for the Little Mermaid, where I talked about, because I besides like just the interest in being challenged and doing something with unconventional materials, I'm passionate about like eco-friendly fashion or like a sustainable fashion, in terms of like being conscientious. This is why I love vintage so much, because it's also like it exists. I'm not like contributing by like buying like 5,000 pairs of like Shein jeans or whatever. And um but I did another thing where it's like I used I think it was like the top 10 like polluted materials in the ocean, and I repurposed them into this like street fashion look entirely made once again out of garbage but inspired by Ariel from the Little Mermaid. And I did this whole thing in conjunction with Disney Style. So I've done like working with things that are totally out of like the ordinary is something that's not new to me. And I'm like, oh, what can we do that's like kind of cool? And I love transforming a material like bubble wrap, for instance, and making like a really fun, like trumpet skirt out of it. And you're like, what do you mean that's bubble wrap? Like that's part of the fun of it, being like, oh my God, like, I've so I don't know. I always like challenging, creatively challenging myself, so to say.
Mhm.
I have a lot of fun with that.
That's so cool. And just the fact that you went in and actually found the data of, okay, what, not just I'm going to be recycling for this, I'm going to be using things that were found in the ocean, but actually looking up, okay, top 10 most polluted things, specifically that.
Yeah, I the time I was working with this, I wasn't working with them, but I had pitched this idea where I wanted to pick different characters from different Disney franchises and do looks that were all about promoting eco-friendly fashion, and talk about like different industries, but also use these characters that are very beloved. So I had pitched like a Vanellope von Schweetz thing, and I was going to talk about like the amount of plastic that's used in candy wrappers and all this stuff. I pitched all these ideas, but But so this was kind of when I had approached them about that, they were like, well, we actually have this series. We're going to be highlighting like different Disney creatives, and we would love for you to like choose something to do. And so like, I'm definitely like, I got this crazy idea. You on board? Like, which I think is good because I've that's some of the knowledge I've been able to bring to this space, particularly where like right now I just finished pitching something to a AAA game studio, and they're very excited to be involved. So I get to announce that next month.
Oh, that's very
Uh,
exciting.
but it's the same idea. It's like, I got this crazy idea, and you're not going to be disappointed because I know I can carry it out. And they're like, all right, you can peek down into it. All right, all right, all right. So yeah, I don't know. I maybe I'm like a mad scientist when it comes to like projects. I don't know. I'm just like, I want to do all these things, and it might be kind of crazy or loony, or maybe like stupidly ambitious, but nothing beats a failure but a try. So like, that's how I like to dive in.
Mhm.
Mm.
You mentioned in passing that you've also done burlesque, and
Mhm.
would it be safe to guess that this would both be as a designer and as a performer?
Yeah. I got into it. How did I fall into it? I fell into it because I was looking for. I feel like I started chasing. By the time I got into burlesque, I was starting to dive back into video games, and I was looking for like a hobby that I can spend like energy, like my creative energy, like to funnel into. Because at that point in my career, I was getting a lot of like similar kind of projects, which happens. You get
Yeah, that
what you call like
actors can get typecast. I'm not surprised
yes,
to hear that costume designers can as well. That in some
yep,
ways it's a benefit that, hey, you get known for something and that your name gets
yep.
around town. Of, oh, if you're looking for this aesthetic, if you're doing this type of thing, reach out to
Mhm.
Lala. She's really good at it. And
Yeah.
that can mean consistent work, which is obviously a
Mhm.
nice thing. But at the
Mhm.
same time, if you are looking for the new and creative, being typecast can be a double-edged sword, I suppose.
Yeah, that's literally what was happening. I had done this science fiction movie, but it was kind of contemporary, and I have an agent for my costume design work, and so my agent was kept like, he was like, oh, there's this other script that's like this. I was like, I like to do other things too. And then he was like, nah, but I think this is a good fit. And I was like, okay. And I kept on like getting like assigned to the same things, and I was like, well, I'm really kind of tired of seeing the colors like slate blue and gray all the fucking time. I'd like to do something where I'm like dying over here. I'm a lady who loves color. I was like, come on. And so I was looking for ways to kind of be able to like channel my creativity that I wasn't being able to do it because of my work. And
Hmm.
so I think I saw one of my friends who does drag. He like posted about going to do this dance class, this burlesque class. And I was like, well, that sounds nice. And oh, moving the body is very cathartic. I was like, oh, burlesque, that's so risque. And so I think I did it, and I was so, how do you say, like pleasantly surprised because the environment, it wasn't like, one body type only kind of thing. You had, what I loved about this particular community of this like burlesque troupe I ended up being a part of was, it was people from all walks of life. So you had nurses, there was like somebody who had just like who had been recovering from a domestic violence like home situation. You had people who were recovering alcoholics. You had people who are just like fabulous like professional dancers. You had drag, you had trans, you had all huge, like this crazy diverse community of human beings. Now we're like, we just like want to shimmy and shake our ass, like it's great. And so it was really, really. It came into a time where it was really like, it was really cool to also like meet people from all these different like walks of life, because I was so, I was like set in like interacting with people in the film industry. I hadn't really like interacted with a lot of people outside of it. I was so in it. And so that was really refreshing too. And then we started doing shows, and they would do these shows, and I that was where like my expertise started coming in. I was like, well, I have this idea, but because I have this idea of how I want to do a costume, and that was like what I started to become known within this troupe, where I was like, they're like, wow, like you create like a story in your acts, and like the production value is so high. And I was like, well, because for me, you know I know how to sew. I know how to put something together. So for me, it felt very like I was
Your skill
being
set
able.
aligned very
Mm,
naturally with it, that
mm,
just because of the other experience that you had, you sort of walked in and probably seemed like you had been doing it for years. And even though you hadn't
mm,
been doing burlesque specifically, that you'd been doing so many things that were tangential to burlesque,
mm.
that it
Yeah.
meant that once you were there, that you had all this preparation.
Yeah, and I mean, also the ADHD simi of, like, constantly being surrounded by, like, rhinestones was just, like, it was amazing, really. It was like being a kid in a candy shop. I was like, "Oh, no way. Look at all the Swarovski and Preciosas around me." Like, I was constantly
So
blinded. It was
sparkly.
fabulous. Yeah, sparkly titties for everywhere you could see. It was like a dream. It was fabulous. Especially for a bisexual. I was just like, "Oh, yeah. Oh my god. Oh, yeah. Sure, sure. That I love this." And so so it was it you know, so that was really great in terms of, like, me being able to explore, like, that side of me creatively, because then I learned how to, like, do dance costumes a lot, because I didn't really do a lot of dance costumes. I've worked off Broadway, and I started on Broadway, like, by being, like, a designer's assistant and stuff, but I hadn't that was a long time ago. I hadn't really, like, dove back into the world of live performance in a very long time. And so I felt like even though it was a hobby, I ended up, like, sharpening certain skill sets because I started learning about those things, because as both the costumer and the performer, like, I was like, "Oh, I have to engineer this for my comfortability or for you're constantly thinking of engineering." And so I was able to translate that, those things back to my career, and I totally there's a whole science about rhinestones, actually, and so, like, I learned about that, and it was, like, really, really wonderful, and once again, just ties into the fact that I loved combining storytelling and theatrics. And, um, you know, and I started to explore my voice as a performer in that space. I started off like many like burlesque performers. You do like kind of like a classic burlesque act, and my first one was like a very romantic one with Spanish, had Spanish music and poetry and all this stuff and big feather fans and stuff like that. And then, and I love that act. But then I was like, I have fun like getting in that time, touching into that side of myself. But no, I'm one silly motherfucker. Like I gotta do something like really goofy. And so, my model has a pigeon costume, and the story behind that pigeon costume is that it's that actually comes from one of my burlesque acts where I'm this like fresh young pigeon ingenue coming to New York City, trying to become a pigeon showgirl,
I
and
did
then
not know that that was the origin of that outfit. Because
literally,
obviously,
yeah.
it's already such a fantastic, silly, unique outfit. I'm not gonna question it. It was like I saw that at the time and was like, I have no idea where this came from. It's amazing. It's awesome. But the fact that it came from burlesque, that's even
Yeah.
better.
So it's like, so I did this act where, I'm in this like, this mascot costume where then like I basically like take it off to reveal, and like reveals like a whole plumage of feathers and this very sparkly outfit underneath it and all this stuff. And it really helped. uh it was that act that really like I really learned who I was as a performer, which is like I'm not someone who is only entirely like serious or whatever it is. I love to infuse fun. I love to infuse silliness. I love to like to infuse whimsicality like as a performer, because it's so like because it's fun. It's
Yeah,
just
what's the
straight
point
up
if you're not having
fun.
fun?
Yeah. And so yeah, and it's like I just loved it. And I think that really kind of maybe that's where, like being a VTuber, like you are in a way kind of performing, and that you want to make sure that you're entertaining people for a long period of time. And I feel like by being in that space, I feel like it's a lot more intimidating to let me tell you, it's a lot more intimidating to perform in person than it is online, because you got like real life reactions that you're staring at and you're totally
Yeah.
exposed. So I definitely feel like having played in that space, it's absolutely informed me in this space as a VTuber in terms of like I don't know, like how to engage people. And there's something really like my heart broke because live performance really took a nosedive in 2020, obviously because of the pandemic. And uh And one of the great things about performing live burlesque was the fact that you are connecting to people face to face and you have immediate feedback in
Yeah.
terms of like joy or whatever. And I think that's what's really fun about live streaming because in a very similar way, like I'll do a silly joke or a bit or whatever,
And you have chat.
and you have chat, and yeah, you got your community who's there and who's like having a great time along with you, or like you'll have these like totally like shared emotional experiences that I'm like so surprised by. Like I recently did this, like I just finished playing Undertale for the first time, and I was like sobbing for like I don't know like 60% of that stream, and I love that. The Greaser Gremlins are around and friends who are tuning in that they also like let themselves get emotional, and I think that's really beautiful, and I think that's so wonderful about this. So I don't know, I think this is really cool to like perform and connect with people in that way, and I think that is something that I'm learning, that was something that I've liked to do. I did theater a little bit in college, but I really think, I worked behind the scenes, but I have really thoroughly enjoyed connecting with other people by combining, my love of, performance and art and showmanship, and connecting with people with it. I don't know. It's been really cool. I
Mhm.
love it. Yeah, it's all kind of all connected, whether it's in person or online. It's just kind of like doing that stuff. Yeah.
I very much identify with that. For my part, I did acting throughout high school.
Mm.
Dabbled a little bit in college. It's not for less. I was part of a Rocky Horror troupe for a time, though.
Ah!
So
Everybody got their little Rocky Horror story. Of course,
yes.
you're in theater. Every single person cut their teeth on
Mm,
Rocky Horror Show. That's just
mm,
how it goes.
and that
Yeah.
theater was something that I was involved with for several years, never in a professional regard, but just socially in different areas. And that performance is something that I've always enjoyed. That I was the quintessential. I did both. I was both the band geek and the theater kid.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I had both of those, and that a story that I've told many times on this show is that I later on started doing work at conventions, and that for
Mhm.
someone who is an extrovert, because surprise, surprise, the talk show host is an extrovert. Conventions are as good as it gets because
Mhm.
I love being around large groups of happy people. And what are conventions if
Mhm.
not large groups of happy people? And you
Mhm.
know what wasn't happening in 2020 and 2021? Conventions.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
September of 2020 rolls around, and I hear about Hololive, this VTuber group that a friend had sent
Mhm.
me some of the JP clips of, and was like, oh, that's neat, that's amusing. I understand what VTuber is, but I'm not going to tune into any of their streams because language barrier. But
Mhm.
they're starting an English branch. Neat.
Mhm.
Oh, the first, it's called a debut, apparently. That's neat. That makes sense because, it's their first time. It's their debut. That's quaint. That's nice. And that happens to be about the time that I start working that day.
Mhm.
And I'm working from home, fortunately. So just,
Mhm.
bring up the video and be doing
Mhm.
that while I'm working. And seeing chat Zoom in Calliope Mori's debut stream was the
Mm.
closest thing I had felt to a convention atmosphere in 9 months.
Yeah.
And it was all over from there. And
Oh,
here we
no.
are 3.5 years later.
I drank the Kool-Aid and never
It
looked back.
it
I took
it
the
was
pill.
that and just the punctuation of that she had, "Would you please RIP," which I then basically had on repeat for a week straight.
Yep.
And that was how I got pushed, pulled, shoved, tripped into the rabbit hole. That it was the interactiveness of the performance of
Mhm.
live streaming, and that I'd watched streamers for years before, but there was something different. Don't know what it was. I'm not sure if it was specifically because it was a debut environment. Maybe it was
Mhm.
because the chat was just so fast. Maybe that certainly a non-zero part of it was because
Mhm.
Callie is a very talented performer and that
Mhm.
it was a very fun stream already. But the, those emotional motivations and the similarities that you're talking about regarding live performances and the overlap that you see in streaming and VTubing are very much shared experiences for me.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like it's been really cool to see. I don't know. I feel like there's so much creativity in people that doesn't have to be like like it doesn't have to be like an illustration, right? Like I feel like people are so creative in just how they perform, and like I don't know how they navigate this space. Like it's really cool. Like people who there's plenty of people who I know who like don't necessarily, they're not game devs, they're not artists by any means, but they've really made an indelible mark, and it's because of their personality or how they decided to entertain people. And um I was talking about this with my husband, and now that we're seeing such a huge shift in streaming, he's like, I'm telling you, at first he was like, I don't know about thing. Maybe it's just a flavor of the moment
Ooh.
because of the pandemic. And um and now he's like, oh, I think that this might be a huge big part that's the future kind of thing. Um oh yeah, don't worry. Sometimes I become a Nature Valley bar and I get really crunchy. Don't worry about it. It's a sickness I've been trying to navigate.
I've heard
Sometimes
the term
I feel
crunchy
for it.
thrown around many times, but Nature Valley Bar, that's a first. I love it.
Yeah. You take,
Gotta get a
you try.
sponsorship there, Lala.
Oh my God. I'd be like, listen,
It's
Nature
like
Valley, I got
this
you.
stream moment brought to you by Nature Valley.
Yes. It totally crumbled into a million different pieces and I ruined your favorite sweater. It's great. Don't worry. I'm still a fun time. Don't worry.
Still tastes good.
Yeah. I still taste good. Don't worry. Just know you'll be pecking at me like a bird. And but yeah, I think there's some really neat things. And yeah, I first started being and it was my husband also who was the one who was like, oh, I think you'd be like, we started watching some streamers and he was like, I think you'd be good at this. He was the one who accepted the idea, so to say. Like we were watching, I think at the time he was getting into Apex, and we were watching like a live streamer play it. She's very good. Her name's like Lulu Lively. And he's like, I think you'd be good at this thing because you're really good about talking to people, and he's like, you really know how to make people feel like really welcome and stuff like that. He's like, I think you'd be great at this. And I was like, what, talking to people on the internet like that? That's crazy. I'm like, what?
Can't imagine it.
I was like, what? No, never in a million years. And I was talking about this earlier today, actually. I was like, well, between, baking bread and playing Animal Crossing, what else did you have to do? So, so we started investigating what to do, and I started streaming as a face cam streamer. I did it only for like a few months, like I want to say like 3 months, before I started to get really uncomfortable with people watching me, because I love being in the entertainment space, but I never was perceived, right?
Yeah,
like
you're behind the scenes.
Always been behind the scenes. And so I took a big break, and then my other close friend, who was the person who actually introduced my husband and I together, a longtime friend, he was like, oh, well, you like streaming, but have you ever heard of this thing called VTuber? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's like you're watching anime characters. I was like, what? And so then he showed me specifically, it was a clip of Corone and another member of Hololive Gamers. I forget the name of the other VTuber, but they were playing what was it? Don't Stop Talking and Nobody Explodes.
Oh, Stop Talking, Nobody Explodes.
Yeah, on that one.
Oh, it might have been Callie. Was it the I'm Die, Thank You Forever?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was Callie. So I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. And then, so I was watching more of her clips, and I think like somehow I got like, it was recommended somehow, and then it pulled up an Iron Mouse clip, and it was like this 20-minute.
That was such a big thing for the growth of VTubing, that the YouTube algorithm had a very narrow but powerful latch on VTubing, that it wasn't necessarily going to recommend you a ton with no context, but if you watched one VTuber clip, your entire YouTube algorithm changed instantly. And it was like, oh, okay, you like this. Here is all of it.
Yeah, and it worked on me. Like I was watching, her like Corona's Corona's clips, and then it recommended Iron Mouse, and I saw this like 20-minute highlight reel, and I saw her like cursing in Spanish and all these hijinks. I was like, who the hell is this? She's fucking hilarious. I was like, she's obviously Latina. I was like, she's giving me mad Puerto Rican vibes. And then like I don't know if in the video revealed it or I looked it up. I was just like, of course she's Puerto Rican. She's really like, there's a difference. There's like Latina energy, but there's like also like Caribbean Latina energy. And let me tell you, there's something really aggressive about Caribbean Latinas, speaking as a Puerto Rican woman myself. And I was so mesmerized. And then I started really diving in and like watching other clips of other VTubers and being like, wow, this is so fun. Like this is really cool. Like you could really build like you could do whatever you want. Like the sky's the limit. Like this is so neat. And I was like, and so the conversation of streaming came back into the fold of like, well, maybe this is a way I could do it. But what would I do? I don't feel like what would I be? And when I was thinking about Twitch as a platform, I was like, well, you got people who like come and become regulars in a space, right? You come to your favorite cozy streamers, you know their schedule, it feels nice to go and they're like, hey, how are you? They like check in on you, and in New York there's big diner culture, so it's like, oh my god, like it kind of feels like you go to your favorite restaurant and I was like, oh my god, kind of like a diner. Oh my god, what if it's like a diner waitress? I was like, it's not like a sensational character backstory. Like there's people who are goddesses, people who are like isekai or whatever. I was like, I'm just like a diner waitress who likes coffee a lot. Like I was but that was like the beginning of the idea, and it combined like the things that I love, which is like vintage fashion and stuff. But then tied it into, I don't know, mixed it with like Disney and stuff, and I don't know, created the idea of Lala.
And here we are. When it comes to IRL diners, when you're going to a diner for the first time, do you have anything that you look for that is a indicator of quality? Is it, how good is their coffee? How good do they make their eggs? Is there something that you use as sort of a litmus test or a standard whenever you go to a diner? It could even be something that isn't related to the food of just, do they have a working jukebox? Is there something that you look for?
I usually feel like the menu will tell you everything. A great diner really hits like all kinds of food, and like you got sandwiches, you got breakfast foods, you got spaghetti, you got like land and sea, like surf and turf, you got Greek. You know, it really kind of, you need a really nice big menu. Like a single menu, like a single page menu is not a good diner. It's got to be something that really kind of does everything on equal footing. But, so you're not looking for like, this is the place where you get like the best Greek food. Like you're like, I'm coming here because I want a BLT at like 3:00 in the morning. Like that's that's the vibe you really want from like a really great diner. And I have definitely my favorite in New York, and also the atmosphere. Like you feel like you can just relax and kind of vibe. Like I don't know, that usually is a good sign.
That's such an interesting thing to mention because I have a friend who has worked in high establishment restaurants, and he told me this was like a decade plus ago, just years ago, that he mentioned the indicator of quality in a high quality restaurant is the shortness of a menu, that it should be a one-sided piece of paper. If it's double-sided, the back half should be the drinks. That for fine dining, they're going to be doing something very well, but that's going to be about it. And that it makes sense for a diner that it would be the opposite, that you're looking for a bit of a broader selection. And so that's very interesting. So we're actually going to take a brief break, folks. We're going to be right back, but I'm going to send us to the BRB screen for just a moment as I try and remember. This might actually be the first time that
Woo!
Actually, as I'm realizing, I don't know if I ever set up the BRB screen on the new system because I didn't use it very often. Actually, wait a minute. I know how to do this. Ha ha ha. I love studio mode, my beloved.
Studio mode, my beloved. It's the greatest. I learned his magical properties today.
Go there. It's going to be there. That's not it. That's not, well, you know what? That's strange. Why is that not working? Okay, well, what we're gonna do, I don't want to do this. The joys of live production, finding out that the thing that you thought was gonna work wouldn't work. So, what we'll do is, we will step aside for just a moment, but actually what I'm gonna do is I'm going to give us a slight bit of cover here. So actually what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this and
I love it.
gonna
Perfect.
cover that up for a moment. I'm going to mute us. We will be right back, folks. So don't go anywhere. There will be more VTuber Talk in just a moment. Alrighty, we are back. And I'm hoping, I noticed at the tail end of the break that OBS, I don't think was lying to me, that it had, I turned off the source for my microphone, but it was still appearing in the audio mixer bar, which usually doesn't happen when the source isn't active. So, I did a second test and said, if you can hear me right now, OBS is lying to me, and nobody chatted, so I'm hoping that means that it, in fact, was not lying to me, or at least lying in the right way, that it wasn't active. But, yeah, we're back.
Oh, don't worry. I say it again. It's fine. I had to go pee. I had to go pee.
Well, your audio source was gone properly. It was only mine that was still visible.
Oh, so I added myself for no reason. Great. Perfect. Yes, Miss Lala had to go drain her clam. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we're back here talking nice.
So, last thing we were talking about was diners, which, figures that we would finally actually get here. And you mentioned that what you look for in the quality of a diner is the breadth of the menu.
Yes.
But for you personally, when you're going to a diner to just enjoy, that you're not feeling super adventurous or you just need your comfort meal, what is your go-to order at a diner that any diner worth its salt should be able to make this meal, and you don't even need to look at the menu, and you know what? Sit down at a diner, I can order this, and if they say we don't do that, you're probably not in a good diner.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, sunny side up eggs with a couple of slices of toast and hash browns, a couple of slices of bacon, and a short stack of pancakes. I mean, that's like.
Ooh, okay. So you go for the full spread. You go for a little bit of everything there.
Yeah, I do sweet and savory always. In terms of like, the only time I tend to divert from that is like if I decide I want like a pizza burger, which is really fabulous, which is a burger that puts like marinara sauce and they put a slice of mozzarella cheese. So tasty, so good, and always get a deluxe because then it comes with tomato, lettuce, and a pickle on the side. But those are like my go-tos usually when I go to a diner. But I mean, if you can't make proper like breakfast meal at a diner,
then what are you doing?
Like,
how are you in business? You're not actually a diner.
Yeah, I want to be able to order that stuff at like midnight and feel like it's gonna, it's great. It just like tickles, it just like gets me going. I that's really like my favorite thing to order. And then something about diner coffee just hits differently. Like I can have like 6 cups of coffee at a diner and not feel like the caffeine jitters go crazy. Maybe it's because I have ADHD and I'm like, yeah, no, Miss Timmy, this is great. but really it's not I don't really like it doesn't really bother me or affect me, and that's usually what I do. I usually get like I just drink my coffee, usually that, and sometimes I've done like just a slice of pie, like if I'm catching up with a friend and we just want it to be like a chill thing. But most of the time that happens only like once in a while. But for the most part, like I really go for the full spread, because if there's leftovers, you just take them home and then you got lunch later. Or if it's later, you got a midnight little snacky snack if you're feeling you got munchies. So
yeah. I definitely go for something pretty similar. I usually go. My go-to for eggs is over medium.
Ooh.
Don't mind sunny side up. I've gone through the proper, I feel, the growth and maturity of palate to the point where I do not really like scrambled eggs. If it's the only thing that I can get and I'm at like a hotel breakfast buffet and I just want some eggs, fine. I'm not averse to scrambled eggs, but I never order scrambled eggs anymore. Over medium is the way to go, or over easy, that I do like slightly runny yolk. We said toast, hash browns, either bacon or sausage, a couple of pancakes, and just I'm set. Very basic, but again, something that very reliably that you can order at any diner in America and you will be fine.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's such a classic combination. So I feel like if you don't know how to do that well, we got, it's just, what? That's wild. That's like 101. That's like 101 diner. Come on, Adam and Eve on a raft and like make it move. You gotta have your classic. And I I really love diner food. It's like so comforting. I love the
Mm,
vibe of a diner. I like can spend hours in one. Like even like going to prom. I went to prom twice because I went to my prom and then I went to my husband's prom as his date. And every time, I don't know if it's a New York thing or whatever it is, but like you stay up late and you always stay at a diner until like the sun rises. Like
that
that's just
feels
how it
like
goes.
such a just. I say this in the best of ways. That sounds like such a appropriately New York thing.
Yeah. No, definitely like a lot of really great memories associated with diners. So I feel like, maybe for me, like the theming of my like VTuber channel, all that stuff, it's also like for me, it's also homey and comforting because I found a lot of comfort being in that space. Um, a lot of like just hanging out with like my family. I grew up Catholic, go to church or go to diner. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot of things like that that I think about. And yeah, I don't know. I find it very comforting. But yeah, if you can't get that basic combination right, like, do you even know how to dine it? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like that cat. Like, huh? Like, what do you mean you don't know how to do that?
Mm,
What do you mean? So I got words for a chef who don't know a diner cook who ain't know how to cook egg properly. Yeah.
I will now ask the most controversial question of the
Ooh.
night. I hope you are ready for
Ooh.
this. You
Yeah.
are on a road trip.
Okay.
You're traveling. It's midnight.
Sure.
And you get to this rest stop / small town, and by some miracle, you see, with just in the same quarter mile, in the same shopping center, a Denny's, an IHOP, a Waffle House, and I kind of want to say Silver Diner, but I feel like at that point that's almost too high quality compared to the other three. So I'm gonna say those three. But actually, I'm actually gonna reduce this. I'm gonna say Denny's or IHOP. If you have to choose between those two, that do you have an opinion on either? Do you think that both are totally passable? Do you think that both are just abominations to diners? What are your hot diner takes?
So, this is a very easy question for me. It's totally IHOP all the way because I grew up going to IHOP like all the time, and actually, I considered the great high holidays of the year being Halloween, the Puppy Bowl, and National Pancake Day because they always get a free short stack at IHOP. And so, like, I consider IHOP like, it's kind of like when I think of Mexican food, I like Mexican food, but I really love Taco Bell. It's like I love diner food, but then I love an IHOP trip. Like, like that's just how I am because you could also get like chicken tendies, but you also get like great, their pancake combinations are really really fun. But I have like fun memories of going to IHOP. So definitely IHOP for me. I was never really a Denny's girl. And maybe it's because there was more IHOPs around in Queens than there was in Queens, New York, and there was Denny's. So maybe that's why. But
The
definitely
diner
I'm an
chain
IHOP girl
turf
a
wars
million
of New
times.
York City.
Yeah. But nothing compared, between those two choices, if it's between an actual diner and
Yeah,
IHOP,
like
I'm always gonna
yeah.
go
If you
actual
if you can
diner.
go to TikTok Diner in New York City, you go to TikTok Diner.
Oh my god, yes, exactly. Oh my god, you know exactly how to get to my heart. You know exactly how to get to my heart.
And fortunately, diners are not exclusive to New York City. They're much more common in New York City, don't get me
Yes.
wrong. But you can find a good Greasy Spoon diner in Chicago, in LA, in
Yes.
Baltimore, in any city.
Yeah.
In like, if it's a big metropolitan city, there will be at least
Sure.
one. You might need to search. You might need to search for them because it's going to be much easier to find a Denny's, an IHOP, a Waffle House. But
Yeah.
if you have the option to go to a proper non-franchise diner, always go for that. But I think that I do also choose IHOP over Denny's, but I'll go to both, and that I have very fond memories with both of just whether it be late night for traveling at conventions or just different things that they do exactly what they are supposed to do there.
Yep. They're more like places for memories to take place in. Not like you're like, I had the most incredible meal
Yeah.
at Denny's. It's just like, I think you're right. Like that's definitely more the point of it all, where it's like, it's more like about the experience you had there versus
Yeah.
like the actual quality of the food, which is, versus a normal diner, like the food is still great. But it's all, it's all things together. It's the whole
Mhm.
experience, so to say. But when you go to IHOP or Denny's, I feel like it's like you say, it's like the backdrop to the memory. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
If you were to open your own diner, is there
Mhm.
something have you ever had the concept, and I guess because in some ways that you've been able to design your own diner already,
Mhm.
are there things that I guess, has the thought ever even occurred of, all right, maybe somewhere down the line that there is a Miss Lala's diner?
Oh, I would love to. Well, running a restaurant or a food establishment is a very tricky. It's a very tricky
Mhm.
endeavor.
But
Oh,
let's
hold on.
assume that somebody approaches you for licensing and just they have this
Mhm.
this crack team
Yum, yum, yum.
of incredibly experienced restaurateurs who are looking to license your likeness because Miss Lala is the biggest thing now, and that they want to start a diner using your licensed likeness, and that they say we will give you total creative control over
Mm.
how this diner is made, and that you won't have to lift a finger to run it yourself, because obviously, yes, running a food establishment of any sort is going to be just a huge time commitment and set of skills. But pretend that you have everything already taken care of, and you just get to sort of sit back, exercise creative control, and get a royalty check on it. What type of diner would you want to have opened for Miss Lala's diner?
I feel like it'd be a combination of, like, I don't want it to be a big spot, right? Like, I think of, like, I like the intimate experience of some of the places that I grew up going to. Like, I think of the iconic Jackson Hole Diner, where it's like, it's very, like, single, aisle. It's not like you got a bunch of space or whatever. I like
Yeah.
having an intimate space because it just intrinsically then makes like you connecting with people so much more intimate, even if it's strangers. And but I love the aesthetic of like that specific like 1950s teal or that millennium pink. Like I love like the vintage colors mixed with chrome and silver. Like it's and it might be like Disney-fying like that aesthetic a little bit, but I enjoy that because it's supposed to be I like the idea of it being like a fantasy that you kind of get transported into. So it's
Mhm.
okay if it's not as like, I personally like my favorite spots are a little bit grittier, but if I was making a place, I'd probably put more of that whimsy into it.
Mhm.
That kind of made it feel more like a fantasy than
Yeah, have it be
than
an experiential type of restaurant that
hmm,
you can go and have a good, quaint, nice meal, but also that you're not just looking to be another IHOP or another diner.
yep.
That you want it to be something a little bit special.
Yep. And I think that that's definitely the vibe that I would like to like. That would definitely be the path that I'd go down. Because that just speaks to me in terms of like my aesthetic. But the food would be fabulous. It's not just for show and can't back it up. Food's got to be great.
Of
Like
course.
we definitely would know how to cook some great eggs. Like just
Mhm.
just for clarification, like we know how to really like knock it out of the park in terms of the comida. I got a
Mhm.
lot of pride. But but I think yeah, aesthetically that's definitely more like the direction I would go. And probably there'd be like a TV playing like vintage like either movies or shows or something, that kind of thing. Yeah, I feel like it'd be an experience in terms of going somewhere and it being so cute. Like I don't know, cute, fun, vintage, like nostalgic, um yeah, I don't know. Like
Yeah. Sounds
yeah,
very
yeah.
fun, very on brand to you. That
Yeah.
it just that little bit of flair, that little bit
Yeah, yeah.
of poppy kitschiness
Yep,
to
yep,
make it
yep.
really
Oh
your
my
own.
god, I love kitschy. Yeah, kitschy aesthetic is so fun to me. Like exaggerated silhouettes or colors or whatever. I love that. It like can't bring a little bit of camp into it all. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that so much. But yeah, that's definitely the vibe.
Yeah.
Mm,
Pivoting a little bit, you mentioned cosplay. We've both mentioned anime a little bit.
mm,
For anime costume designs, is there any series that you look at and say, "Oh my gosh," even if
mm.
I'm not a cosplayer now, that imagine Hollywood live action is being done. Is there any series that you would look at specifically and say, "Ooh, I would want to be part of that because I love how they do those costumes"?
Yeah. It's not necessarily known as being, like, the best anime ever, and I definitely think it's slow in terms of the story, but aesthetically, I think it was doing such incredibly interesting things with the visuals, and it was, The Count of Monte Cristo. Uh
Oh, deep cut.
mm. So, I think that that would be a fabulous show to see
Oh my
realized because it's
gosh.
the art style of it, you have,
Oh
like,
yeah, just
these moving projections and, like, I was like,
Studio
"That's
Gonzo
so
did
cool."
so good with that one. For
Mhm.
those of you out there, if you have not seen the Count of Monte Cristo anime, it's
Mm.
not quite the original Count of Monte Cristo, but it is very heavily inspired by the original Count of Monte Cristo. But
Yep.
it does. I don't know what the term is for this animation technique, but
Yeah, it's so wild.
that fabric's textures are static and that the outlines move that like there's
Mhm.
I forget which Cartoon Network shows. I think it might be Chowder or something.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
couple different shows in American cartoons that have used this type of technique where that you will have a pattern and that as the character moves, you can tell that the pattern itself is not moving, that the fabric you are seeing is changing in the sense that the outline moving around it is sort of revealing this lower layer.
Mhm.
And it is just, it's a gorgeous show. My goodness.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and I like, going back to things that are very visually, like, striking or inspiring, that's definitely an example that's always stuck with me, like, in terms of how they, like, approach, like, character design and the and, like, really the costume design of the show, of the character, so gorgeous, like, all across the board, like, because the hair it's not only, like, the outfits, right? It's the hair, it's everything, it's the environment. It's so interesting how they, like, mix colors and textures, and they apply this really interesting animation technique. I love it. Like, that would totally be something where I'm like, "Ooh, you're giving me, like, a sandbox project in terms of how to bring this to real life." Like, how do you even, like, do that? Like, that's definitely an example of, like, the way that that's animated is pretty much only possible within animation. So the challenge would be, like, how do you give this, like, really impactful visual in like a live action translation that feels like otherworldly in such a way and incorporates like technology that I feel like is unseen somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, there
And
it
you
goes.
can even sort of see it that it's not quite as apparent since it's not in motion, but even
Mhm,
on the static image, you can just sort of perceive that the green of the character on the far right there is
mhm,
it. Even now, I can tell it's just slightly on that different layer. But imagine that as that character moves, you see the designs on there, that those designs will stay static. That if he takes a step to the left, that the right half of that design that's on his chest will sort of just disappear. It will not
mhm.
move with him. But then as he keeps
Yeah.
going, you might see that pattern again as the
Yeah.
layer continues to move, and that just it is
So
such a
interesting.
visually stunning. And like you were talking about, the
Mhm.
style overall, that this is a very classy show.
Mm.
And it's you even nowadays don't see shows being done like this very often at all. But
Mhm.
for you to call this one out is also interesting because in a way, it almost feels like one of the most realistic things for Hollywood to do because it's the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yep.
You get a Count of Monte Cristo movie every decade or so because it's just a classic literature thing. It's public domain that
Mhm. Yep.
someone's going to want to do it and to say, all right, we're going to take inspiration from this anime that took inspiration from the original story actually feels like one of the more, I don't know if it's necessarily realistic because it's not a big name thing that even in the anime community, Count of Monte Cristo, that is a I'm trying to figure out what the proper term here is, but
Mhm.
that's like that is an artistic pick that you had there. That is
Mhm.
a critic's pick that the lay person is not necessarily going to go to. And
Yeah,
it might have
I
too small of an audience for a Hollywood studio to say, "Oh, this is what we're
mhm.
gonna bankroll." but that
Yeah.
in terms of difficulty for creative execution, that this is
Mhm.
entirely realistic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at that, I'm like, "Ooh, I want the challenge of that," kind of thing. Like, so cool. So, so cool. And, there's technology that's come forward in terms of, like, performance and things like digital mapping, like,
Mm.
that like, people will digital map, like, outfits on bodies without there being but it looks like there's something like, there's so many, like, it'd be such an interesting study of how of, like, comboing engineering technology and the art of costume design to, like, bring something like that to life. That
Oh,
is
I hadn't
so
even thought of it, of
exciting to me.
retaining
Mm.
that animation technique in live action, because we have green screen technology nowadays. You could do that.
Yeah. Yep, you have LED wall. I mean, like, look at the shows like, what is it, Ahsoka and things like that. They don't shoot on location. They shoot on a stage and they have an LED
Mhm.
wall, and it's
I
like
forget,
this new
it
technology.
has a name, and I can't remember what it is. I think it's the, I'm just blanking on it, but there is this there's this name,
Not
and
a
it
virtual
sounds, like,
production.
intimidating. Oh, I need to
Yeah,
look this up now. What is the Star
the volume,
Wars
the Unreal
LED
volume?
wall name? Yeah, no, it's called The Volume.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yep,
and it's just this entire enormous LED soundstage
mhm,
360 thing, and it's so cool.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and
Yeah, it's
that's so interesting.
mhm.
Ooh.
It's really interesting seeing how, like, technology can change. There was even I think it was Adobe who they showed at an expo or something a dress where it was a simple silhouette, just a simple A-line little dress, and, the texture was changing constantly because it was projection mapped or something like that. It was really
Mhm.
and I'm like, "You see? Like, we once upon a time didn't think this was even a thing, and, like, now you see that like, it's possible, like, people have been figuring it out." So, like, for me, that'd be, like, going back into something that, like, really like, inspires me or want me to dive into a project like, that would be something really cool. Like, "Ooh, you're challenging me to do something that hasn't been done before, so this is uncharted territory. There's something really fun about being in the phase of, like, throw like spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. There's something
Mhm.
exciting about that because you're discovering things, and there's like I don't know, it's like you're a scientist trying to test out a hypothesis to see if like your idea is real, and then amongst that path you learn like about new answers to solutions, or even like I don't know, it's cool. I think that's so neat when you think about in art and things like that and how it can all kind of intersect and combine. So
Also,
so
thank you just for reminding me of the existence of The Count of Monte Cristo. I haven't thought about that show in a minute, and it's so good.
Yes, yes, I have definitely, like there's, like I have favorite shows because I love the story of them, and then there's other shows where I'm like, "Oh, like, aesthetically, this show is doing something that excites me visually as a creative," where I'll, like, watch this show on mute and just kinda watch. Another show like
Mm.
that is, like, Problemática
Oh, yeah.
Problemática, like,
Oh,
the witch
gosh.
scenes
The
are
Mhm, mhm.
so interesting because they
That's
combine, like, Photoshop and collage and
and
animation, like
rotoscoping
well
of just
yeah,
oh,
it's so cool. Like, that's another example where I'm like, once again, like, that's something that's so cool to me because it's doing something so different that's, like, it makes it's like, "Oh my god." You see, it just goes to show, like, art is a sandbox. You can really like, the limits really are endless, "The limit doesn't exist," to quote Mean Girls,
yeah.
like, it doesn't exist. You can really, like, you know, you can do anything with an
Yeah.
anime, and I think that's so cool, and think that's very, very cool. Yeah.
Mm. I know one that
Mm.
you've been really into in the past several years is Demon Slayer, and that certainly
Yeah!
the outfits there, I think, are on the sliding scale of things, that they do a lot of really
Yes,
creative things. So it's such a
yes,
colorful show. I appreciate
yeah,
the vibrancy of the color palette in Demon
especially
Slayer.
yeah, the demons especially are so fabulous.
Oh
I
my,
there's
they're
something to be said.
ostentatious.
Yeah,
They're
I
they're
love
just all out there. That this
it!
isn't. Yes, they are horrifying and grotesque in their own ways, but they have so much character and so much creativity that this isn't just
Yep,
your run-of-the-mill horror creature demon. That these are they're caricatures unto themselves, but in the best of ways.
yeah, I definitely feel that way for sure, for sure, for sure. it's such an exciting show to watch because the animation is such great quality, but it also is like the story is really great. And yeah, the character designs are so fabulous. I mean, villains usually are always fabulous. Like they just happen to always.
Villains are the most fun characters. Doesn't matter if it's
so
Disney, it
fun.
doesn't matter if it's anime, it doesn't matter if it's live action. Villains, in my
Yeah.
opinion, get the best dialogue and more often than not, the best outfits.
Yep. Yeah, yours. Yeah, I mean, there's also a reason why like queer audiences identify with a lot of villains because there's also this like confidence and this like that it's so infectious and like and scary and palpable, but it's like you're like, ooh, like you feel, they really are these icons of powerful beings usually, whether or not they fail or succeed in whatever they're trying to do. But these otherworldly villains usually are really they're fabulous and fantastical all at the same time, and they're so fun to kind of watch. I love the season 3 where they're in the Pleasure District or whatever it is.
Oh,
in
yeah, Entertainment District.
Yes. Oh my God, I love the Entertainment District. I love it.
Studio Ufotable was operating on a different plane of existence from the rest of the anime industry that season.
Yep.
It was wild to watch because
so cool.
somewhere around like episode 6 of the season, they get into this really big fight, and I was watching it saying, this is movie quality. This is because you can always tell when a shonen anime movie comes out, the budget in the movie is so apparent, and you can tell the difference in quality from, for Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, you name it. The difference in quality for one of the movies versus a normal episode of the show. And to see an episode of that.
Gambit agrees. He's like, yes, Demon Slayer. Very good, very good.
And to see, an episode of that in the middle of the season is like, okay, wow, this must have been, a really big climactic moment. They went all out for this. And certainly it will return to their still high but normal level in the next episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Nope. The second half of that season went from, again, what is already one of the highest production bars in the industry to just, it's just gonna be movie quality from here on out on a weekly basis. Why not? We can do that. That it felt like they were flexing.
Wild. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I've known that, like animation budgets in television is definitely not the same in terms of features. And so that's definitely like when it comes to anime, I feel like you really see that sometimes. Demon Slayer is definitely like the exception to that rule because it's so fluid, it's so rich, it's so great, and I feel like that's part of the appeal. I mean, the story is really, really great, but also at the same time, just like that quality is so good. I'm totally hooked. Like, I can't wait for the next season. I'm so hyped. I'm so excited. It's definitely my favorite like contemporary anime show that I'm just getting into Jujutsu Kaisen, but the animation of Demon Slayer I truly feel like is unparalleled right now. So
yeah. And I'm a bit behind on Jujutsu Kaisen, and Jujutsu Kaisen is still incredibly high quality, and that this past season got a lot of accolades. It also had some unfortunate stories come out about the.
I don't know.
No. So this has nothing to do with the show itself. That there was the unfortunate but not unique stories that came out regarding the working quality of the production being not
really?
stellar, and that while you had this just amazing final product, that the artists, as is unfortunately stereotypical in the Japanese animation industry, not stellar. That it's the type of thing that while I was watching those episodes of Demon Slayer, I was just saying, this is incredible. Gosh, I hope those animators are all right.
Oh no, I had no idea. I just watched, I think it was season 1. And I'm just starting season 2. I gotta pick it back up, but I've been so busy that I haven't been able to enjoy it. Like,
busy with what? Can't imagine why you'd be busy.
Imagine, yeah. So I totally I want to go back into it, especially because the gentlemen in particular are very attractive. So
Yes.
I want to continue watching. So yeah. That's definitely something that I'm interested in.
Mm.
Mhm, mm, mhm. But
Oh,
yeah, yeah, it's cool. Demon Slayer still has my heart. It's still number one. JJK is great, but the Demon Slayer, I don't know. It's got heart, great animation, great design. I'm rooting for the characters, and it's funny. I don't know. I love it.
yeah, the characters on the whole in Demon Slayer, I do prefer to JJK, with the exception of Zenitsu, and I feel like I'm certainly not unique in saying
Mhm.
I'm not a huge fan of Zenitsu, but meh, that he does not bring down the production so much that I don't still love it. That
Mm.
if that's the low point, you're still doing all right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's fair. That's
Mm.
fair. That's fair. Mm,
Now, one
mm,
topic that I've sort of just been burying the lead on for the
mhm.
entire show, because I really knew that I can bring this up at any point in time, and
Sure.
fortunately slash unfortunately, we've been going at this so long already that I'm almost getting worried. It's like, okay, I kind of need to bring this up, otherwise we're just going to get caught on every other topic for so long that we'll leave it
Oh
out.
yeah.
But I can't
Mhm.
have you on my show, Lala, and not talk about
Uh-huh.
Magic the Gathering.
Oh! Yeah, I know. I definitely I literally I mean, even today I was talking to Obi Catty Cat about
Hmm.
magic and just like I love that I'm discovering more and more people that are into magic. And it's a great time to like bond with other people and like connect with people in the community who are into it. And at the same time, I feel like people are coming out about their love for magic. So I don't know. I love it. Yeah. 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 Show me a cue.
Yeah.
Show me a cue. Show me a cue.
So for you as a player, that you
Mhm.
play mostly constructed. I play limited, which is draft sealed, where you don't go into an event with a deck, that you get cards either just by opening packs or the drafting process. But that I don't. One of the biggest things you can do when drafting or doing sealed is to not box yourself in, and is to let the card pool, the cards that you see, sort of guide you, because that's part of the strategy. That's part of the game before the game. But
Mhm.
so I don't have any particular colors or strategy that I identify with, or I say, ooh, I want to do that. That when I'm playing, I'm solving a puzzle and finding different ways to get the cards to work together when I have those limited resources. But
Mhm.
it's a very different approach when you're playing constructed, when you are building your deck ahead of time. So for
Yeah.
you as a deck builder, do you
Mhm.
lean towards any particular colors or strategies?
Yes, I love how do you say? I love my go-to colors usually if I'm doing a dual color. Well, first of all, out of like the classic 5 colors, I tend to gravitate towards white for whatever reason. And then maybe because I just like in lore wise, like it's this balanced kind of color in terms of how it, life gain is associated with white. I don't know. I like white a lot. In terms of color combos, I tend to usually go for Selesnya. I like to very innocently say
Mm.
that I'm a slut for Selesnya, so there's that. And then tricolor, I'm a Naya girl, so I like red, white, and green. So
Green.
it's like I feel like I'm like, I start with white. I adopt the green, and then I take the white, green, and then I adopt the red.
Yeah,
Like that's
that's
kind of
not an
mm,
uncommon thing for players, that did
yeah.
for players, and also part of design, that
Mm,
like I mentioned, I don't necessarily lean toward any particular color uh, for strategy, but that there are certainly ones that, oh, if this set of colors ends up being where I land, that sometimes I enjoy the mechanics there a bit more. And for me, I would say my primary is blue.
mm,
Second would probably be black, and then third would be green or white. Red is a
mm.
relatively distant fourth, but I've played many, many red decks in my day and done plenty well with them. In that, in Magic the Gathering, each color not only has a mechanical identity, but also a flavorful identity, a conceptual identity, in that the color of white is generally associated with life, order, consistency. There is unity involved, that it's sort of a one for all, not an all for one in terms of
Yep.
color identity. But even within that, uh, they've done a very good job over the years of making sure that all the different colors are able to have their own depth of identity, that there are evil characters that have the white mana alignment, that there are vampires that you normally think of vampires as black mana in Magic, and that's what they were for a while, but over time that on Ixalan, all the vampires are white aligned because that they are
Yep.
associated with a holy church, essentially, in that they all have this strict code of their own, and that level of order is what is the white mana there, that even though they are very monstrous, that they are thinking in a sort of unified, orderly, holy way in their own twisted manner, and that is how they are able to be white mana aligned. Whereas you can have black mana, which is usually associated with evil and selfishness and greed, but can also be very good in that it is thinking inward, but that can sometimes still be of benefit and all right thinking inward that then leads to goodness outward, and that you have that duality in flavorful design and lore design. But that certainly white is usually associated lore-wise with more of the good guys, shall we say.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that gravitated. I just ended up, I think I really landed when I played the arena and I landed on the colors there. It walks you through all the different colors, so you can kind of get a sense of like basic mechanics and
If
the
you ever
lore
want to
behind.
learn to play Magic the Gathering, Arena is the absolute
Yeah, it's
full
really
stop
great,
best
actually.
tutorial to play the
Mhm.
game. That
Yeah,
even if you never want to play online ever again, if you just want to learn, that's where you should learn. It's a great
yeah.
tutorial.
It really is a great tutorial, and, um, I think by doing that tutorial, I was like, "Oh, yeah," I think I ended up just gravitating towards the white deck, and then I was futzing around with it, and I started playing with, like, what life gain in it, and I was like, "Wait a minute, okay, maybe this is the color I ended," and I did. I ended up just kind of playing with that deck, and then it's transformed, but I took the original deck, which was whatever pre-con they give you for like a standard match. And then I ended up, slowly making it like a life gain, life gain counters deck, whatever it is. And then now it's an angel life gain deck on my main account. And, it's very competitive. So I don't know. I've grown to really like white combinations. I'm trying to play the other colors. So I just kind of can like diversify my understanding of the other colors and combinations. Um,
That if you ever have that
but yeah,
interest, obviously sort of biased, but I suggest that people do draft or sealed because it sort of forces you into
yeah,
experimenting with other colors, and that that way you end up sort of having that motivation to experiment and find new ways. Draft and sealed is not, generally speaking, a good introduction to the game, at the very least, if you are not familiar
yep.
with similar TCGs, that if you're moving from one TCG to another, that it can be good depending on the mechanics, but otherwise that's more of a advanced thing that you're certainly beyond the point where you are very easily going to be able to understand that. But I also, whenever I talk to new players, like, okay, this is how I play. Don't start there.
Yeah, yeah. I only recently started exploring in draft, and actually, you made a really good point because I right now, one of the next commander decks I would like to build is a Rakdos, so a red black vampire deck with Olivia Crimson Bride, and that's because I did the Exelon draft on Arena, and I tried doing Rakdos. I was like, "Ooh, Rakdos vampires is kind of fun." And so that's how I ended up falling into that. And so it's good. You
Also,
never
of
know if
course, you
you
would
like
love
something.
Olivia's dresses. Of course, you would. Like,
Yeah, I mean, she's also just listen, she's just a beautiful lady in general, okay? So, like, in general, there's a lot of interest, okay? Well, just in
she
general,
is a very
there's a lot
good-looking
of interest.
vampire. For those of you who
Yes,
aren't
very,
familiar,
yes,
Olivia
very
Voldaren is
attractive.
a very prominent vampire
Mm,
noble in one of
mhm,
the most iconic Magic the Gathering planes or worlds. So, yeah,
mhm.
she always has just these incredible ball gowns, dresses, and the artwork is very, very good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very, very good. Yeah, in general, like, that's one of the reason why I love Magic so much is because of how beautiful the artwork is. It's so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
The
It's so I don't know. I feel like you can get very easily like gorgeous art prints of the many different cards that exist within Magic, because the art quality is just that fantastic. I really love it. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and funny that you mentioned Rakdos. So, for those who aren't familiar, Rakdos is both the colloquial term for the color combination of black and red, but that comes from the cult of Rakdos on one of Magic's most prolific planes, where they had all of the 10 color pairs for the first time. So the names of those organizations related to those color pairs became the jargon for those color pairs to this day. And that the cult of Rakdos worships the demon Rakdos, who is a character unto themselves. That is this giant, powerful demon, has been printed a couple times. And as luck would have it, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Lala, Rakdos is going to be a prominent character in the next set, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which is, without going too much into it, in recent MTG lore, for the longest time, only characters known as Planeswalkers have been able to go to these different worlds. However, they had this big multiverse-shattering event recently that think of Avengers Endgame level stuff that had been worked up to, where not only did basically 2/3 of the Planeswalkers become not Planeswalkers anymore, but that the very fabric of the multiverse was torn, and now there are these pathways that anyone can go through and end up in other worlds within reason. That if you go through this, it is a painful process that you could end up, like, actually, if you are not a strong enough being, that you might just come out the other side missing your skin.
Yeah.
That it is, there's a lot of magical energy going through there, so it's not like, oh, suddenly the highways are open and everyone's going everywhere else. But this was sort of their lore way of saying, okay, we can have some powerful characters go to other places and they can survive it, but it's not going to be a whole bunch of immigration from one plane to another necessarily. But that in this next upcoming set, which is basically their Wild West set, that Rakdos has made a trip to this place. So we actually saw art just recently of this set's version of Rakdos, and, you know, cowboy hat outlaw, and it's so in flavor for him, so that's really fun. But there's a couple others that I wanted to show you. So I'm going to move us to another screen for just a moment.
Sure.
Oh, that's right. I had put that over there. I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about this on this screen, but then decided to put it on the other one. But not all the cards in the set have been revealed so far. That they had their first... They had a couple cards announced over the past couple weeks, but today they actually had a stream where they dropped a good chunk. And that, by and large, especially in the earlier days, Magic's design and naming philosophy was on the more serious side. That things, it was, you know, high fantasy, and that you might get some puns or witty quips in the flavor text, but that the card names were generally pretty straight-laced. But that over time, they have allowed themselves to lean into the funny. That for a while, I'm not sure if you've heard of the unsets.
Yes, I have.
I love the unsets. For those who aren't familiar, the unsets are joke sets that the first one was done like 97, 8-ish, that it was pretty early on. And it was called Unglued, and the next was Unhinged, then they had Unsable, and they're all starting with Un, and they're silly. And that's where you would get the silly names. But now they let themselves be sillier in the day-to-days. And I always have a couple cards each set that I tell my friend, oh, this is an unset escapee. That back in the day, they never would have printed it with this. They would have only put it in an unset, and you get that a couple times now. And this is the first, what I call, unset escapee for this set, that I just have two. But there's this one, because this is the Wild West.
Yeah. And yeah, I think Olivia is she is in this set also. I think so. I just saw somebody say that. Yeah, she is one of the pre-con commanders in it, which is very exciting, because I'm like more iterations of her, which is very exciting.
But Lala, I've just sent you the first unset escapee.
Ooh.
They would have never printed a card with
Oh
this
my
name 10 years ago.
god.
This would have
I
only been allowed in
love
unset.
it.
But nowadays, they let themselves
Wow.
have holy cow.
That's amazing. I love that. Of course.
Because
Of
it's the Wild
course.
West. There's cattle. There's
Of
cattle. There
course.
are cows. That's a
That's
very
holy
flavorful
cow.
thing. So what is it's an ox angel. It's an angel with
Yep.
wings. And you know, in Magic the Gathering, that's not an absurd thing. So
Yep.
here you are. You have a holy cow.
Oh my god. Look at the flavor text. I like the flavor text is so funny. It says, after it passed by, the rancher swore she saw hope shining in the pig's eyes.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even read that. So that's
Oh my
that's a
God.
far enough wraparound that it's just like now it's even getting into a pigskin fly thing.
Yep.
That's
yep.
so good.
Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, that's another reason why I love Magic so much, is because like they have fun not only like with the card names, but like with the how do you say, the flavor text that they have on cards. Like I got the Raining Cats and Dogs secret layer, and they had so many fun different like
Oh yeah,
flavor
they had a
text
lot of
moments.
fun with that.
For the anointed procession with the cats, like you had the cats who were like, you know, they're like kind of twinsing and stretching, and so the flavor text goes, big stretch. You know, you're like,
Mm.
you know, like just really fun things that can really add to the depth of like why you fall in love with a particular set or characters or whatever it is. That's like one of the best things about Magic is the flavor text.
Mm. And the other unset escapee that I have, funny enough, I don't know why, but apparently they were feeling very silly when it came to cows for this set. I hope they get silly with other things, but
Yeah.
if I had a nickel for each time there was a silly cow card I saw today, I'd have 2 nickels.
Oh my god.
Because
oh my
well,
god.
what happens
That's
when
so
you suddenly have miraculously a cow appear? It's bovine intervention.
Instead of divine intervention.
They can't
So
keep getting
good.
away with this.
They can't. They truly can't. But you know, it's just like, what was it? No one could prove the ox did it, but no one tried to harness it again either. You know, that's so funny. Like, of course, bovine intervention next to the holy cow,
Yeah,
and of course, it's white cards. I love that.
and that just mechanically, this is something that you're getting rid of another creature, but it's being replaced by a white ox creature and a cow.
Amazing.
So that you have bovine intervention. Just
Bovine
It's-
intervention.
it's incredible. Someone is
So good.
succeeding at their job, and I respect them greatly for it. I'm also immensely frustrated with them. But I also like, if you notice the set symbol in the center left, it's a cowboy hat.
Oh yeah.
Or sorry, center right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
yep.
my directions, but it's a cowboy hat, and I always love seeing what they do with the different designs. So those are the only 2 I had, but I felt like I had to get your reaction to these.
Oh my
These only
God.
got spoiled earlier today, like hours ago.
Yeah, I haven't been able. I think they're adding finally. Is it today, tomorrow that they're adding Thunder Junction cards, or maybe it was just news to Arena or something. I gotta check it out. I
Yeah.
think I saw something, but I haven't seen the news.
Mm. Okay, I'm
But
gonna send us back to the main screen.
but yeah, what was it when it I love that they're having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I not that they're cutie marks, but that's what I always call the set marks. I was like, they're like cutie marks to Magic. That's what it is.
Oh my gosh.
It's cutie marks.
I'm gonna be
that's
telling one of
what it
my
is.
friends about that later, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to unhear that.
Yeah, cutie marks. It's like that's what I keep on thinking about it. You know, I had there's a greaser gremlin, a community member of mine, who is so sweet, and I think currently the card count is about 40. Maybe it's a couple more, but it's like 40 cards out of 100 of a commander deck that are Lala commander cards, and they made my cutie mark, as I like to say. It's like a little coffee cup. It's so cute.
That's so cool. I love that.
So cool. Like, I love that. I was like, oh my god, that's a Lala commander deck. My colors, I think, are red, it's red, white, and blue instead of black, but kind of classic Americana, red, white, and blue.
Mm.
But also given the nature of like how mischievous like the greaser gremlins are, and how like but also aggressive, and but also like it's really fun how they like figured out the mechanic. There's food tokens, of course. It's really fun. They did a really great job. I can't wait. But they're like, this is my project. I'm gonna keep on doing it until I have the full deck. I was like, that's so incredible. So,
Yes.
we've looked at some of them. So I hope that in the future, when it's all done, I'll do more review and then maybe get a printed.
I look forward to seeing that. That's always going to be fun. But speaking of projects, as we mentioned earlier, you have your Hope for Endo charity stream tomorrow, and I do want to make sure that you get plenty of rest leading up to that. It's going to be starting at 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. That's 12 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. GMT for those of you across the pond. So I have just a couple of last questions that I ask all my guests. And the first is, do you have any goals that you want to accomplish before the end of the year? And I'm going to say you don't get the easy answer of a successful charity stream. Sorry, you'll have to pick something else. That
oh my God.
We're getting ready to go into April. We're still in the first half of the year.
I
so
know.
Do you have anything that, whether it be another project level thing or whether it be metrics or getting a new outfit or something else that you want to do, is there anything else apart from a wonderful charity stream, well, two actually, as you mentioned, that you hope to accomplish before the end of 2024?
Yeah, I mean, every month there's a big event happening in the diner. That's what I realized. Like every single month this year, we plan something big happening, whether it's a charity stream, whether it's a big like collaboration with.
You did mention you had the full year planned.
Yeah, I have a lot of things planned. So I think probably the biggest next project, because like doing this charity stream kind of really like is getting me ready, so June will be a bit easier to conquer, because or tackle, rather, not conquer, tackle, because I would have already done it a little bit within recent history. But I do plan on doing an uncapped subathon for my birthday in September, so that's probably going to be a wild ride. And then I have a couple of like conventions I plan on going to this year. So and that'll be the first time I'm like meeting people in person. And so I hope all that goes swimmingly well. But yeah, I mean, I had goals this year, like metric wise, and I've learned that, I mean, I already smashed one of them within the first quarter of the year, which is crazy. So I'm, I have my goals, but you see, the sky's the limit. And even, the fact that I've already had like some things already like go off well, that, if I don't hit a wall of them, that's okay. I just keep on moving forward and try my best. But those are some of the other things that I've got cooking that I'm very excited for, and crossing my fingers that it all goes well, goes swimmingly well.
And the last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but different people get different things from VTubing. Some people have said it lets me get in touch with my inner child, lets me be someone I can't be in real life. Others have a more clinical response of, it's a tool in my tool belt as an entertainer, as a content creator, and that I wouldn't want to be a facecam streamer, but that I certainly love all this, even if I don't have that deep emotional connection to my model. And that there's various shades of gray in between and even beyond those answers, and there's no wrong way to be a VTuber. So for you, Miss Lala, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
I would say being a VTuber, I feel like world domination! World domination! Yes! I hope the greaser gremlins take over the whole wide world, and the diner will be the capital of all chaos, and it'll be great. That is my ultimate goal. But in a moment,
yes.
Yes.
Wonderful goal.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, wonderful goal, wonderful outlook. Yeah.
Thank you.
What a great way to approach VTubing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I want to continue on this journey of connecting with other people through like immersive storytelling and keep on having fun and not let go of that fun because it's provided a lot of joy in my life. It's re-energized me in so many different ways. It's kept life exciting, and I don't know what's next, but I don't know if this is what just the past couple of years have been like. I can't wait to see what the next couple will be. And I've had such an incredible, like, I don't know, I feel I'm incredibly lucky and very privileged to have had such an overwhelmingly positive experience so far. And I just want to hold that really dear and close to me. And I do not take lightly that I have had many a greaser gremlin and people who have helped me get to this point, and I don't want to let anybody down in terms of like their belief in terms of what I can do. And so I just want to keep on pushing and delivering really great fun moments and things that are like unique and different in this space. And I don't know, that's, this, like I keep on saying, like the sky's the limit in terms of where things can go. And so VTubing for me is just like this wonderful like creative self-expression that I get to explore. And I'm really great that there are people who are really receptive to that. Even if there's a bad poop joke or two in the mix, but like that's definitely what it means to me. I love it. And I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. We're only getting started, and so I can't wait to see. I don't know, this is going to be a very exciting year. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think you are doing a fantastic job, and I think that, like you said, the sky is the limit for you, and I am so excited to see where you go from here, not only in the next 24 hours, but for the rest of the year and beyond. That I think that you have very much positioned yourself for success. I think you are already you've hit the ground running, are doing a great job, and things, I can only imagine where they're going to go from here. That I'm sure you have many plans cooking in the background, and I can't wait to see them.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me and for your patience in terms of the communication.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine.
I'm so glad that we've been able to spend. I loved chatting. I know that if I didn't have the stream tomorrow, we could probably go on talking.
Oh, it would have been dangerous.
We already proved that in the pre-stream. We had such a great time. It's like, it's just going to be a half hour, like 3 hours later. We just had such a great time talking. So it's just like
I said, anytime that the pre-interview goes long, that's always a good sign.
And thank you again. It's been wonderful chatting with you. You've been so kind and so great, and I don't know, really, it's been such a wonderful evening. So and it helped me decompress in a way because I've been working nonstop. So nice way to kind of wind down before I get to EP and go a mini for bed, and then we have tomorrow.
Well, I'm glad I was able to help you unwind and sort of, I suppose, act as maybe the mini press tour for the Hope for Endo charity stream. That getting
thank you
things
for letting
prepared,
me talk
hyped up
it.
before the big day tomorrow. And the actual last question is, who would you like us to raid?
Oh my God, my choice?
Yes, indeed. The guest always chooses. And while she looks through that, I have not actually thanked people for the follow, so I will do that now. Vanessa Lele, the Dragon VA, Beautiful Origin, the Random Chris, Twin B Mark II, Avetado, I hope I pronounced that right, Striker Tempest 22, Hug Monster, Plurinerd, Stephen PNW, Titanium RW, Mythalian, and Bato of the Water Tribe. Thank you so much for the follows. Welcome on in. Also, Bato of the Water Tribe. I understand that reference. Very good. Very good. But thank you so much for the follows. And if for some absurd reason you are not following Lala already, please do yourself a favor and correct that. I gave her a shout out. Links are over down in the channel panels, and the handles are over there on the left side of the screen. And if you are interested in more shows like these, I do these about once a week. Can't promise consistency on scheduling because I try to schedule around my guests, but this is what I do here. I talk to VTubers. Oh, how wonderful. They've been on my show before. They're great.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I love them. So I think that they'd be a lovely choice to check out and hang out with and kind of wind down with.
We are going to be raiding into a kami, so be sure to let them know that Lala sent you. Send lots of emotes and love their way. Be sure to tune in
Yes.
to Lala's charity stream tomorrow. And Lala, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who tuned in, whether you've been here for a couple minutes or since the pre-show. I really sincerely appreciate it. This has been episode number 144 of VTuber Talk. Thank you again, and I will see you all next time. Bye!
Bye.